Jessica Anderson. And Dr. V is here with us in person. She's moved here permanently, we hope. So it's great to have you with us. In addition to Corey remotely, we have Dr. Wozniak and Amal Smith in attendance. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we will forego the Pledge of Allegiance this morning. And before we start our workshop, I'd just like to ask if there's anybody in the public who would like to comment on items not listed on the agenda.
There's no public comment.
All right, great. So I'll turn our program over to Dr. Yo.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's fabulous to be here. It's wonderful to meet you in person. The last time we did this session was actually just last year. When we spoke on the phone, I kept thinking it was a couple years ago, but it was just last February, I believe, and it was virtual. So we didn't get to meet in person. Before I start, are you comfortable if I don't have my mask on? Feel free to, I can always put it on. If you ever feel like you need me to, just whisper and I'll put it on, no worries. All right, so what I like to do is to spend some time this morning at the beginning to do an activity that will help you understand each other's personal beliefs. And that will lead us to work on your vision and on your goals. There are documents in front of you. There is a copy of your strategic plan philosophy. And you'll see there you have goals for student learning and goals and district goals. So we'll be working from that document this morning. You're going to look at your vision, or I'm sorry, I did not see a vision. You have a mission statement. You're going to craft a vision and look at your goals, and also look at alignment between your LCAP goals and the goals that you have in that document. I'll walk you along and I'll explain what we need to do at every step. What I like to do before we start, do I need to do an introduction? I think I did that last time when we met. I don't want to take up time. Okay. Well, the only thing that's different since last time we met is that I finished the program and I got to graduate and walk this past May. So it's brand new, it's very fresh. Thank you. So that's the only difference. Everything else is the same. So let's see. So if you look at your agenda, the very first page to the left of your folder, and Corey, I believe you have all of that. Sylvia has done a fabulous job of making sure that you all have.
I have it all.
Folders. Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. So you can look at the agenda. The morning is really devoted to visioning for the future. It is this time that you're spending with your interim superintendent as well. It's really important to be on the same page and make sure that you have that same vision, that you share the vision for your district. So that's basically the agenda for today. You're going to spend time on that. The rest of the materials in your folder is for your information. There is a booklet that is fabulous. I don't know if I don't think you had it last time because no one was in the office to mail anything when we did virtual workshops. But this booklet, it is filled with tons of great information on running meetings, on protocols, the board bylaw 9000 and 9200, which is role of the board and limits on board authority. So keep that. There's also a calendar, an example, a sample calendar, governance calendar in there, and some other information and brochures for your information. So the first item that we are going to do this morning is behind the agenda in the folder, there is a list that says personal beliefs. If you would please take that out. And before I explain what you need to do with that, I need 3 volunteers. I need a timekeeper. I need someone who's really good with keeping time and who can just tell me, okay, Amal. Oh, yep, Amal's great. Okay, Amal's great. Okay, so Amal, timekeeper. I need a recorder, meaning whenever we are writing anything on the charts, I need someone with really good handwriting. You can write really big and print. So who can be the
Teacher? I was a second grade teacher.
There is always, I can always count on a teacher one teacher at least in any group. So you're the recorder, and I need someone to make sure that Corey's thoughts and reflections are included, because sometimes as we go around, I may forget. So I need someone to be in charge of that.
I can do that.
Beautiful. Okay. I have Hillary being the representation for Corey, making sure that her voice is heard. Megan, you are the recorder.
And you let me know when
I
you
will.
want.
I'll let you
Okay.
know. And then Amal, you are the timekeeper. So every hour or so, Amal, if you can let us know, in 1 hour, we all need to get up, stretch, restroom, because sometimes I forget to let you guys do that. So let's make sure we do that in 1 hour. You're going to spend the next 5 minutes looking at your personal beliefs list. Okay. And you're going to select 5 personal beliefs that you really believe in, that are so near and dear to your heart that you can't imagine life without those personal values and beliefs. So please go ahead and select your 5. And you have 5 minutes for that.
And once you select the 5, do they have to be in order?
They don't have to be in order. Unless you want to put them in order, that's fine. If you like to put them in order, that's okay too. If you feel strongly. For those of you who are done with your 5, go ahead and select the top 2. So if you had to narrow it down further from 5 to 2, what would those 2 be?
Boy,
Mhm. All right, and those of you who are done, for your two top personal values and beliefs, if you can write them, each one on a Post-it, nice and big. And I will take those from you. Each one on one piece. Each one of your top two.
On one Post-it note.
Yes. So you should have two Post-it notes with your two top. Your top two beliefs. And we need to make sure we get Corey's also. Oh, boy.
We pass them down? Oh.
Sure, I'll take them. Yes, thank you. Right there, yeah. All right.
Lori, you're gonna have to shout yours out, I guess.
Oh, I got them.
Oh, you're in charge of Corey.
Yeah, I got
Okay. Oh, you got it, okay.
She's in text
She's
communication.
in text communication.
I know I have a little buddy. Little buddy here. It's fun. Little buddy.
All right, so your Post-its are gonna be up there, Corey.
We have to get them from Cheryl. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Someone in charge of Cheryl too.
I just can't see the Post-its. Like I see them all and Megan reading them. I can't see that far.
I
can't read them
Sorry, I can't see them. I'm like staring at them. I don't know why, because I can't read them.
Marker maybe.
I thought you guys were all reading them and I was feeling left out.
I only see colors. That's it. Pretty colors.
You have two more, right? That's everyone's? Perfect. Okay, so what I invite you to do now, you're going to be getting up quite a bit just because I don't want you to have to sit for too long. You're going to come around and take a look at what your colleagues have selected. And you can see here, so feel free, come on up, take a look. There is some overlap, however, not too much. You see that integrity is up there. And integrity always comes up in any of the workshops. Whenever we think and reflect on our personal beliefs, integrity comes up, right? But take a look at what else is there. So justice, relationships, right? What else do you see that could be an overlap, that could be in the same family or same area? What can be grouped together? What can
Ethical practice and integrity. I did ethical practice and I was debating between ethical practice and integrity.
Okay, so you think that that's potentially there? Okay. Wait, let me move. Community.
Maybe could go down with the relationship.
Yeah,
Mhm.
quality relationships, close relationships, community.
Beautiful. Beautiful, okay. What else?
Inner harmony and optimism, I think are similar.
How does everyone feel about that?
Mhm.
Is it optimism? Thank you.
I
All right.
wonder if you would group personal development with faith and courage.
Mhm.
So where are those?
And then personal, oh,
And you can also put optimism in inner harmony over here as well. They're all kind of encourage inner harmony, optimism.
Yeah, the whole, yeah. Would you put wisdom with that or?
And wisdom. I was thinking wisdom.
Wisdom here.
Mhm.
Upright.
Thank you. It takes a village, everyone, right? Okay. What else do you think?
Equity and justice, it looks like you kind of have it there with ethical practice, integrity. I guess it's kind of already over close to it.
Oh, yes.
It
Mhm.
wasn't, I put it.
Equity was on the list.
I added it.
Wasn't on the list.
Equality. I know. This exercise, and equity was not on the list, it said equality, and I was
No,
like,
and
no.
that's
And
different, completely
justice is
different.
not on the list either.
So
Gotta update
that
the
brings
list.
me to my next point, and you're a step ahead. There are always something missing from the list, right? Any list that we look at. And it's important to identify and add it. So I'm glad that you did. Who added? You added it. Beautiful. Okay.
No, and someone added courage and faith because they weren't on the list either.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wait, is that mine? You can just start the timer. You're good with it.
I was gonna add
It's
one
not an
too.
unpleasant sign.
I was gonna add spirituality.
Like when she-
I saw it when they get it done. That's what I wanted, some spirituality.
Mhm,
Important.
mhm.
And I see the faith and the courage.
Right, which I like the addition, but I was looking for
Yes.
equity and justice as well, and I just was, because I'm a little rule follower. I went straight off the list. I am not Captain Kirk with my making up, changing the rules.
So does this look good? Is there any place, democracy and public service? What do you think about those two? Could they belong under any of the other umbrellas? Or do you want to keep them as they
I
are?
would think public service to go with integrity and. What's those ethical practice?
Democracy and justice.
Democracy
I mean,
and
if you do it
justice.
right,
I was thinking equity, public service, and democracy kind of fit together.
I would put those in there. And ethical practice.
So. All together? Is that,
I don't know
No.
about public
equity is
service.
to the right.
okay,
When you say public service, what do you mean? How do you define it?
Yeah.
it's up to you. It's up to
To
you
me,
as
that
a.
seems
as a
more
group.
like community,
Okay.
public
do that,
service,
then no.
community.
Public service for me was the role that I play as a public servant. My job is to ensure that the public, that our public, our world is a better place as a result of my leadership.
That feels to me like equity, justice, democracy.
Yeah,
Those
that's
three,
exactly what it
Those
is.
are
Yeah.
those, yes.
I think those
Mhm.
three go together. They're not part, they're related to integrity, but I don't think of them as.
These three together?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Capture that, right? And then you have nature here, right? Is that nature? So it looks like there are 5 potential umbrellas that are your core beliefs, personal core beliefs. When we do this exercise, I ask the groups to come up with their top few as a team. So if you had to fight for your own and say, well, integrity is really important, or public service, or let's take a look at that. So what are top 3 that you feel is really, really critical for all of you as a team, as you work together, starting with your new interim and starting with a new superintendent in the future months? What are the top 3 that are so critical to your work as governance team?
Well, it feels to me like, I mean, integrity.
Yeah.
There's, if you include ethical practice as part of that, then integrity feels like it. It's strong for me, I chose it. And then had I been courageous enough to add my own, I would have added equity, justice as well. So those 2 are my top 2, the integrity, equity. Justice. Not that I added community, but as my second. Those are the 2 that resonate the most for me.
Everyone else, I like to
Yeah, I
hear
would-
from everyone, so.
Okay, well, I would say the equity, justice, grouping and community.
Equity, and what was the other?
Community, this kind of cluster, the relationship piece.
Yeah, I would circle
Peter,
those.
did you ask
I
for
would
two
too.
or for three?
Top two.
Oh, top
Top
two.
two, if we can't top two, let's see if we can come up. So put a
You want
star
like-
next to the one, just star next to the ones that, let's see how many. You
If
get up
it's
the
a
grouping.
The grouping, not
That's
any
fine.
individual.
Yeah, the
Okay.
groupings. Unless you have one individual that you feel is most, but if it's the group, then that's
If it's
fine.
only two, then
That's fine, yeah. All right, so,
So you have a.
Okay.
Um,
sorry, this was in the way.
Did you open the window?
It is open.
it's gonna take a while. And what, we should get our Corey and
I got Corey.
Cheryl voting too.
Oh, did we, yeah, you got, Corey. Thank you so much.
Yep, and Cheryl.
Thanks, thanks, Hillary, yes.
It's really hard because I had really three.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get that.
It is hard to go down to two.
Yeah.
This is such a big one. I feel like
Mhm.
we can't just ignore it.
But I don't, for me, those don't all go together.
They're all intertwined.
I don't think of them as.
Well, and I suppose we can say inner harmony is like be connected with community relationships, right, in a way. I don't know.
I don't think of faith, courage, wisdom, optimism as similar items in my mind. That's why I didn't
They're
resonate.
a little bit more personal. but
And I mean, they're all
Yeah.
important, but I don't think of them as grouped in the same place.
So I put in a harmony. And I was looking at all those internal things that one embodied or could embody, right? And looking at wisdom, actually, I actually was looking at personal development, all those things that one would have or contribute to a community, to the community.
So those are more sort of internal qualities.
Everyone selected already?
I'm waiting for Cheryl.
Okay, okay. So it's really interesting because if you look down here, wisdom, inner harmony, optimism, personal growth, they didn't get selected, that whole, and maybe because I had asked for just your top two, and maybe it would have been in your third choice. Everything in life begins on that personal, that self component, with the self component, right? If you're not well individually, how can you be a good team member, an effective team member, I should say, right? So everything begins with that personal, the personal style that you have, your work style, being optimistic, courageous, your wisdom, all of that. And effective functioning, highly functioning teams are the ones that have members who have and understand that self component and spend the time to achieve that inner harmony, to be optimistic, especially in education. Because education, especially right now, is really missing the heart component. And heart needs to be the strongest component in education. It's really missing it. So I'd like all of you to think about and reflect on the grouping on the bottom here and how important it is for all of you moving forward, especially in crisis, or always in life, but especially in crisis. And you have experience, you're still in a pandemic. We're not done with it, right? And there are nuances to experiencing the pandemic. So moving forward, showcasing and role modeling the behaviors that you want to see in your district is really, really critical and vital.
If
And
I
that
could
starts
just
on the
comment a
bottom.
little bit on the nature piece, because
Sure,
I
please
think
do.
I put that as one of my top 5, but I noticed that a couple of you had it as your top 2, but I would almost group that into what I know during the pandemic, nature is something that has done that personal, being out in nature is something that sort of restored me personally. So in a way, it sort of fits with that sort of what keeps you going and what your internal qualities are.
So Megan, this Corey Dillick, I feel like I just will shout things out from time to time. You guys will be like, what's happening? I'm going to shout things out. No, because I had put nature as well. And not just because I was just in Yellowstone and Tetons, but one of the reasons, like just being in Tetons, like you said, I felt like nature, being in nature like that, and being in nature in general, but especially being in nature that is so awe-inspiring, kind of makes us want to be better people, or makes me want to be a better person, not, and like you said, refuels, recharges, but also makes us think about things beyond ourselves, and think about a higher purpose, think about, like you guys said, public service, like all sorts of things. Nature kind of encapsulated that for me. So that's why I had put that on there. And Cheryl's got her hand up, by the way, guys.
Hi, good morning. So maybe it's because I was thinking about the personal, I mean, I thought personal beliefs, but it's what we bring to the work. And so, yes, I'm the one who, I guess, just put faith and courage because of us doing this in the past. And those are just my beliefs. So I put them there, but I think what's important, I'm all for like the inner harmony and that, but not at the expense of not speaking up and not having the courage, or whatever word you want to use in there. But so, I think there might have been other things that would get at this that would never, or that would bring us back to making hard decisions that can make some people feel uncomfortable. And so the only thing, I mean, I'll say, Dr. Evans, for me, when there's inner harmony, there's inner harmony for me when I've been courageous enough to speak up. But what comes to mind with just hearing the harmony is like how many times it is just easier to lead from a place of making the majority of people happy. And I think that's in direct conflict with equity work. So I just wanted to put that out there in the room.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Cheryl. Should we move nature and group it with?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the other one who did nature, and I would put it with inner harmony for sure, just because you said something when we were picking about you couldn't live without, and during the pandemic, I could not have gotten by if I wasn't outside walking around and just, for me, that's like, it's inner peace, it's inner harmony, it's very grounding, like calming.
That's how I saw it.
Mhm.
So the way that I look at it, because the personal development, personal growth, the self component is always ignored. And I can tell you in most groups I work with, just because we don't go there, we go right to business. What do we need to do? What's the agenda? We don't really pay attention to how am I as a board member, how am I feeling? And am I in a reactive mode or responsive? There's a big difference, right? When you have wisdom, when you're optimistic, when you're courageous, when you have inner harmony, you're more likely to have taken the time to be in a good place personally to respond and not react. It's very easy to react, right? But when you respond, you take the time to think about how you're going to respond. And it could be very different. The end result may be the same. Maybe you're not agreeing with your colleagues. Maybe you decide to vote no, right? The end result is the same, but how you get there and the conversations you have and the discussions you have are going to be different when you're in a responsive mode. So you did a great job. Sometimes, these beliefs are all over the place and teams can't really agree on what do we agree on as a team that are our top groupings. I think it's easier when you group them also. So I will take a picture. I'll take a picture of everything that you do today. And in a couple of weeks, you'll get a memo summarizing and you'll get it and Corey, and then they can forward it to all of you. And it will summarize all your conversations and discussions and how far we get. So great job, everyone. Keep that in front of mind as you do the work together in the coming months and coming years. And so, okay, so that's that. Any reflections, any comments, any questions? about that particular activity.
I just have a comment and sort of going back to the foundational beliefs and all. I think it's something that we've all realized more than ever the need for during the pandemic of as you commented, of taking care of ourselves before we can come and be collaborative and thoughtful in our work.
Being mindful, right? So important, practicing mindfulness every moment. All right, so with that, let's continue on. What I'd like us to do now is I'd like to bring your attention. First of all, thank you so much for being such good sports and for working so beautifully collaboratively with each other. We're going to talk about your vision for your district. And it's really exciting because vision is your compass, right? Your vision is going to tell all your stakeholders where you're taking your district. At the board level, you have a visionary role. It's not operational. You're not doing the actual work. You're visionaries. You set the direction. And what are your setting direction documents? What documents can you use as you set your direction? Any guesses?
Like vision, mission.
Beautiful.
Okay.
You have done this before, Veronica. Yes, vision, mission, your goals, your objectives, those are your setting direction documents, right? So, and why is visioning important? What are the 3 W's of visioning? So as you look there, I don't know, Corey and Cheryl, if you can see. Can you see that
Not at all. I cannot see that at all.
All right. Thank you, Hillary. All right. So oh, no, go ahead. The 3 W's are what, why, and how. And I actually like to put the why first. Are you familiar with the work of Simon Sinek?
Yeah.
And he encourages us to reflect on the why we do what we do. Not what we do, not how we do it, because most of the time you ask your colleagues, you ask family members, what do you do, right? That's a common question. Sometimes you even ask how you do what you do, but we seldom ask, why do you do what you do, right? So we don't really spend time. So I like to actually bring the why up, then what, and then how. Now, at which level is the board involved? We're not on the how. Great. Okay, so you are at the what and what needs to happen and the why. The why is really important. And what I'd like you to now think about, reflect on for 5 minutes or so. What is your personal why? Why are you part of this governance team? What is your why? Think about it, reflect on it, take some notes, and then we'll go ahead and chart. And I think Megan, you are the recorder, right?
Oh, okay.
So when it's time, not yet,
All right.
you can reflect on your own why for that. We'll put those up, and that from there, that's going to really help us be the starting point of your collective why. You have to start with your personal why. Am I really?
Okay.
I'll send you everything. So the memo will have everything, all the components of the workshop. So what is your personal why?
Is it legible?
So
Am I
this
handing it
one,
to you or
I'm going
reading
to
it to
ask,
you?
I'm going to ask Megan to chart for us.
Okay, so I
So
can
if
read
you
them.
have them ready, sure. If you have them ready, you can go ahead.
I just start writing them
Sure.
down. Okay.
And if you're done, you have 3.5 more minutes, so. I'll take them, or you can just read them out. I think Yeah.
Oh, you don't want me to put them down yet?
you can start, that's okay.
Like, do I
You can
rewrite
start
them?
with yours. Sure,
Okay.
and you may have some overlap, so if you do,
Okay.
we'll put a. I'm gonna make sure we get Corey and Cheryl. Oh, next.
Anybody else?
If you have them, go ahead and share your why.
Mine is, I have a belief in education and what it provides as an opportunity. As opportunity.
Wait, say that again, Amal.
A belief in education and what it provides as opportunity.
I like that.
Sort of a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
Megan, would you mind using darker colors? Because they're harder to see
sure.
than lighter colors.
I wrote something similar, just that the belief in education as a public institution and that everyone has a right to that. So you could just make a little asterisk or whatever, because it's kind of the same thing. Just the same belief in the right to a public education.
Different aspect.
Yeah, you don't need to redo all that.
There you go.
Beautiful. And I said sort of personally, sort of our responsibility to move out of complacency into an active role for our community.
Did you catch that, Corey and Cheryl?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
They're shaking or nodding.
They both got it.
Okay.
I also wrote serving my community because I have, I have a strong belief that the skills I've gained in work can serve this community. So that was another reason, as I wanted to serve my community.
Can I say service to community?
I wrote something similar to that, Amal. I wrote serving our community to make things better.
Don't put that in aspect. Yeah, beautiful, okay.
Did you hear that, Megan?
I did.
Okay, good.
All right.
I had one too, but it's a little different. So I had to show communities how board and superintendents can work together.
Collaborative
Mhm,
relationship,
mhm,
governance team, collaborative.
to bring about positive changes.
I love that.
in
And that
schools.
relationship is really important, isn't it? Because what happens if that relationship is not harmonious? You're spending all of your time back and forth,
Fighting each
right?
other.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm saying this right, so I'm happy to change it.
Make sure it captures your thoughts, Dr. Evans.
We're in 10, and
Move forward. I'm glad you wrote. My handwriting's so horrific. It's so mean.
Takes me back.
And let's say more / collaborative partnership,
okay.
because it is a partnership.
And come on, you can just stop it. We don't need that.
So I wrote almost exactly what Amal wrote, a belief, I wrote deep core belief that public education can and should provide opportunities for all students to succeed. So pretty much
another
the asterisk.
And I'll say in opportunities for students.
Cheryl has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Thanks, Sylvia. So I am believing that education is a human right. I am an educator to serve students who are typically overlooked and for whom the system has been designed to work against. And then I added, I became an educational leader to use my position to influence greater change for the students who need the system to change the most in order for them to succeed.
About positive change for our students?
No, no, that's not significant enough,
Okay.
because she said for students who are typically overlooked and the system has been designed to work against.
She's like an advocate
Yeah,
for
so,
working with our
so,
students.
yeah, she said
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, so I think, the difference is, as I've been thinking more and more about why I do the work I do, I think, I intentionally didn't write an educator for all, because I'm starting from a place of, I know that the system and that education as a right and as public education exists, is that it does serve many already. But for me, my personal why is advocacy for the students for whom it's not working. And as we've done more and more of our racial equity work, is acknowledging that not only is it just that it's not just that it's not working for some, it's intentionally designed to work against some. And my personal why is to interrupt the system as it currently exists to change that.
I wrote advocate for marginalized students to support educational equity. I'm
Does that
happy
work,
to
Cheryl?
change or add to that.
Does that work, Cheryl?
It's definitely closer. Yeah, I think that's a good summary, Megan.
Has everyone shared?
I haven't.
Okay. go
Yeah.
ahead, Veronica.
I'll just add to that. I mean, I feel pretty strongly about public service. So I'll just kind of put an asterisk next to that one. I think I'm all shared that first. But also, a why for me is, I really, ran for school board and wanted to get on the board to help, cultivate, a climate of inclusivity and excellence in learning, across the district. So from TK through high school. To help with that.
That excellence in learning, right? Because
Yes.
they went together.
Right.
Yes, because
Right.
it goes together, right? Can't have excellence in learning if there's some kids, like Cheryl was saying, some kids aren't gaining the benefit of that.
Anything else that anyone would like to add? It kind of it goes along with that. When I was running, and just doing the work over the last couple of years, I just feel strongly about all of that and supporting our students, that they need I feel like we need to do more work around student voice, and a lot of work is being done, but I just still feel like, just thinking about Gianna wanting.
And Gianna, welcome. She is listening. to
Oh,
us right
great.
now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So, I would just.
She's dropped
adding-
off, actually. She's dropped
Oh,
off.
okay, well,
She was here. She dropped off. She wanted, anyway, go ahead.
just, something about student voice. I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but maybe just an asterisk.
Well, yeah, that was something that I felt was really important too. I mean, I guess the way to say it is to ensure.
Kind of thing, is student voice part of inclusivity? I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's the way to say it, I guess, but if you want to specifically name it, I mean, you could say something like, ensuring representation of student voice and governance or something.
Ensuring
I like
student
that.
voices are heard and acknowledged.
Well, since
I
we're
like that.
governance around school board, I would just say ensuring student voices are heard or are represented in district governance.
In district, yeah, I like that, in district governance.
Writing is getting messier, though it's beautiful where we
No, thank
go.
you so much.
We should always keep track of that.
Right.
That's good.
Right. You're doing great, Megan.
Thank you, thanks for the positive.
Yeah.
I know, Megan, that's not easy.
And I like the brown. The brown is easy to read.
You have to get your back there.
I'll take a picture for you, Corey.
Can I just share why I put this? Because
Is that everybody? Is that everything?
Well, not Corey.
No, I did. I spoke at some point. I'm covered.
Okay.
I heard something recently, I think on NPR, I did a New York Times article or something about this town in the Northeast where they cut school funding in half.
Oh, I heard that.
And it was really because some extremist views were brought forward because people like us just didn't even show up. And so it did create this sort of backlash in the community where people did get involved and did step forward and did say, you know, we have to support our schools. It sort of brought about this community involvement in a way that hadn't been present because these extremist views were allowed to flourish because people with really good common sense views on supporting their communities didn't show up and didn't run for school board and didn't show up to the meetings. So I feel like, you know, complacency is a big piece of what brought me here.
It's interesting that you should say that because when I saw that one, it's that type of complacency that has held us down for so long. And coming out of that, that's the only way we can have change in all these things that everybody said. That was big to me when you said that one, is, you know, not being complacent. But how do we go out into the community to really hear so that we can address these issues? And I think so we all have to be active at all times, but I was just thinking about that. What's our role?
You know what I love about this part of the conversation is, like, I'm feeling the weight of all the existential crises that are going on in the world, like huge.
Yeah.
And what we do here, you know, if you can just take baby steps in your own immediate world, how you can sort of the ripple effect of how that grows into other things. So it's easy to feel no hope and downtrodden and from just all of these crises that we're going through. And yet if we do this work, it's like when you're depressed, if you just take a walk, you start to feel better. This is my version of walking. Like I can do this. And if this happens, then that can sort of spread into something bigger and it lifts the weight a little bit. And I think that's the selfish part for me. I 9 years ago when I got on the school board, I wasn't feeling the weight of that. I was mostly joining the board for those reasons and because I like to work with the people who were in leadership at the time. And I just thought really smart people come together to do this work, and they do. And now what sustains me is I become cynical and almost hopeless in so many things. And this work makes me feel hopeful, like working with students, working with teachers, working with educators, that there might be something beyond like the dark, dreary world I see ahead of us. And so I love this idea of moving out of complacency. And I love this idea of service because it moves us.
Well, and I think beyond that, it's not only great for you, but if you've been listening to the hearings recently, what some of them are saying, some of the extremists, the insurrectionists are saying, now a lot of their movement has been targeted to school boards and to local communities to try to get the extremist views within their local communities. So it's even more important now, I think.
Hey, I want to piggyback on something Amal just said. So Amal, I completely agree with you that this exercise also makes me hopeful. Like this, I agree with you, like feeling the weight and then doing an exercise like this and then feeling pretty hopeful. What I just wanted to throw out to the group is, obviously Cheryl and I are online, and the only person, just since you guys aren't on Zoom, Brian's the only other person who's watching this right now. But I guess my point is, in order for this to not just make us hopeful, but make the rest of our district and community hopeful, I was thinking we're going to need a really good way, and I'm not trying to jump ahead at all, but just have this in our minds in terms of how we communicate this. Like, I think the biggest ripple effect this will have coming out of today is not just making our governance team feel better, but I hope we can use this to make our community come together and feel stronger. Like that's my hope for the day, is coming out of this, we've got something that goes well beyond our team and ripples through the community in a way that is a positive force for the year. So that's my hope.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, as Amal and Megan were speaking, I was just thinking like about being more strategic, because I don't consider this group to be complacent. And not that that's what you were saying, but yeah, I'm
we're here.
inspired, right, exactly.
If we were
Right,
complacent, we'd be,
let's, right, like
I'd be in
how
my
we
garden.
message what we're doing today.
And I haven't gone yet, as
Oh,
I
I'm
listen,
sorry.
it's all right, as I listen to the conversation, and all we need to do is put an asterisk then for advocating for the marginalized. That's my why, is to serve in a leadership role to ensure that all students are successful, with a special attention to those who've been historically underserved. So I know what my vision and mission is, and I know why I'm put on the planet. And so I don't want us to, I hope we don't lose that notion in moving forward in the community. And that we could stay committed to the board policy that we've all said we were going to head in this direction. And that we become that equity-driven board that we want to be. So that was all. That was all. So just ask, can I take a picture? Are
you done? Is everyone, anything else that you'd like to add? Has everyone gone? Okay. All
I
right.
just got to
Yes,
send
we
it
can
to
take
Cheryl. That's all.
Sure, sure. And again, you will get all of this in a memo, so you'll have it all, but go ahead and
She's
take it.
trying to participate.
Oh, sure, no, thank you.
And I like to capture my own.
Sure. All right.
You gotta
So-
have your own stuff.
What I'd like to ask you all now to reflect on is, now you look at your personal life. What is the role of the board? Why do boards of education exist?
You've been asking that for a while.
You're like, we should know that.
We should know that by now. That's really.
If I ask you to say it in one sentence, one simple sentence, what is the role of the board? Not governance team, right? Just the board.
So not the list of responsibilities. You're not looking for
No.
that.
No list.
You want us to write it on a Post-it or what?
No, you
Oh.
can share. You can just go ahead and share. What comes to mind?
Say the
Role-
question one more
role
time.
of the board. What is the role of the board? If you could say it in one simple sentence, what is the role of Board of Education?
To represent the community's voice in district governance.
Bring the community voice
Absolutely.
to governance,
Right.
build a relationship with the office of the superintendent, set the policy and vision agenda.
That's it. That's it, right? So you
That's what I'm
transfer. You transfer the values and beliefs and the desires of your community into setting direction documents. Your vision, your mission, your goals and objectives. Beautifully said. So now, how do you go from your personal why to your governance why? What is your collective why? Let me put this up. So if this is your list of your personal why, what is your collective why? What do you think? When I ask you that question, does that change anything? Or is this still your collective why as a governance team, the board members and the superintendent?
Well, the ones with asterisks are probably a collective why.
How does everyone feel about that?
I would want to put an asterisk next to the inclusivity and excellence learn. I think we've made a very verbal commitment towards inclusivity, DEIB work and all of that, so I think we may not have said it in that last round, but you talked about it. It's been, we've all publicly stated our commitment to that. So I feel like that gets lifted up into an asterisk category.
Does it have to be the asterisk? Can it
No,
be all of them?
It Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I don't see anything on there that should be excluded.
I don't either. I was just saying if we had to lift.
Cepeda didn't tell us we had to pick two.
Yes, not yet.
Not yet, right, she may be going there in a minute.
We have 7 there, right? Did I do it right? Yeah, 7. 7 wise. Now you could say, yes, that's our collective why, or just the ones that got the most attention. It's really up to you. This is your list and this is your why. And this is the list of your why, your whys. So how do you feel about your collective?
Cheryl
why
just
now?
raised her hand.
Oh, go ahead, Cheryl. Thanks,
Thank
Veronica.
you.
I can't see.
She should just speak.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Cheryl, you have to.
Okay. So I was just wondering, for me, some of the statements feel like how we'll get to our why. Like I 100%, I think, Veronica, you said student voice. I apologize if I'm not remembering correctly, but that's like, how do we get to serving the students who the system isn't working for as we listen to the students? So I agree with that. I'm just wondering which things that are listed are any of these a how, same way, moving out of complacency into an active role. That feels like an action I'm going to take. So for me, that's a how, but I agree with everything that's on the list. I'm just wondering what the difference is between the whys and the hows.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say, I think we've already shown that we're doing number 1. We don't really need to state that. I think just our being here is sort of a given. I don't think that should be on there. For the why.
Collective why. So what number 2, belief in education and what it provides. Would that be a collective why?
What is it again? Believe in
The second
education and what? I
And
can't
what-
read that
and
light green.
what
The
it
light green is
provides.
hard.
What it provides.
Oh, and what it provides. Yeah. I mean, I think we could be, if this is sort of a general, but I think we could be more specific with that, but I know we're going there. Yeah. Yeah, so I agree.
So number 2. Corey, did we hear from Corey also?
Sorry, it's a little hard to track because I can't see the chart. Maybe Hillary, you should have sent me a picture, but I'm agreeing with what you guys are saying.
All right. And the 3rd, service to community. Is that a collective why for you as a governance team?
That means public service, then yes.
That be the why bring the voice of the community into the governance of, that's the role of the board, but is that partly the why?
Your service to community is to listen, right, and bring their ideas and their needs and desires to the governance team. So I'm seeing a lot of nodding. Does this go then? Your
Yes.
collective. The 3rd one.
I wonder, Sapita,
Yes.
if we could move the camera up, so do you all need to see us? Or would you rather just see the chart and Sapita?
That's for the people.
Oh,
who
that's
will be
true.
coming in.
Okay, I just thought it might be nice if the camera showed that a little better. Sorry.
All right, so the number 4 is share collaborative partnerships between superintendent and the board.
That's how we work together
That's a how.
to address the needs of the community.
So maybe build collaborative partners.
I still think that's a how. That moves into how.
Okay.
Not our why.
Mhm.
All right, so the number 5, advocate for marginalized students to support educational equity.
That could be part of the tail for number 2, if we're making one sentence.
Yeah.
It could be put together.
Mhm.
And
Okay, so
can
that's
can we change support to ensure educational equity rather than just to support it? Because I feel like it's everyone in the community, we want their support, but I feel like as the board and as senior leadership, our job should be, or I'm looking for a stronger word than just support
I don't put this,
or lead.
That word?
For all kids.
This word here. Change it to
Ensure.
ensure.
everyone is comfortable with it.
Mhm. Advocate, sounds like a group that action, is that the how or not?
Yeah, I think we're saying it's a how, but we want to message it as twos somehow as part of our vision.
Or we could even say ensure educational equity for marginalized students. You don't want to have the advocate.
So start your sentence with ensure, right? Does that sound?
Is that okay, Cheryl?
We can just.
That was yours.
It's
I'm
almost like
sorry, I didn't hear it. Could someone restate it if you're asking me to respond to whether it's okay? I didn't hear it.
Ensuring educational equity for all, for marginalized students.
I think this falls under. Cultivate K-12.
Cheryl, I think they were just saying, change the statement to ensure educational equity for marginalized students.
Yes.
Instead of advocate. It's true, 5 and 6 should kind of go together. huh?
5 and 6
Yeah, they
is
do.
similar to, like, cultivate a K-12 climate of inclusivity and excellence in learning, but to Cheryl's point, that her reason was she has a belief in education, but her passion is to address those who feel, or
Well, you could say cultivate K-12 climate of inclusivity, ensuring educational equity and excellence in learning for all students.
So I had ensure educational equity and excellence.
Yeah.
It is not only for marginalized students, but for all students.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We need a new paper.
Yes.
And it is addressing all students, because sometimes when you just narrow in on marginalized, that other group sometimes feels left out. And so you want to make sure you are thinking about them as you are supporting other students as well. So it should be one or the other.
Right.
You know.
That's true. In the whole sense of ensuring educational equity benefits all students,
Mhm.
right?
So take a look, because what we'll do then is to rewrite exactly how you want it to be, because you wanted to combine 2 and 5, but now I'm hearing combining 5 and 6. So we'll go ahead and we'll ask Megan to help us and rewrite. But let's look at, so number 7, can you still see it on the board? You probably cannot see number 7 now. Okay, so here's number 7. And it's about student voices. Is that the governance collective-wide to ensure that student voices are heard? Me, it is.
I think it fits under 5. I've lost track of
So
it.
maybe combine.
Under
are you
6, I'm
thinking-
sorry, it feels
I
sort of
know.
like
Is it
inclusivity.
more of a how?
I
Why
feel
gonna
like that's
push
a
back
little
on
bit different to me, because I feel like the last year or two, our student voices have become so strong.
Mhm.
And we have, real push right now for student voting in our governance team. And so I feel like that is separate. It's not looking at all students, it's ensuring that we have student leaders to represent student voices.
That's not my why. That's a
That's a.
practice or a
that's
process,
true, that's
but it's
true.
not my
Yeah,
why.
it's definitely an action. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I get it, and
Mhm.
I understand it. I think we have to tread carefully when we go this route. And it's not my why. It's an important result or something. I don't know how to say that.
end result.
Maybe, yeah.
That's why the practice is in place. So that's
I'm
again.
gonna advocate for this being a collective why, because the last one speaks to making sure that people who are impacted by the work you do actually have a say or a participation or involvement in the decisions that are being made. That's very different than what we were talking about earlier about excellent education for all. So, you know, a lot of times policies are made and the constituencies who are impacted aren't even in the room. So then the policies are disconnected from what experiences are there. So I think student voice is a way to say, hey, you know, we have to remember, right? We're serving a community, we have families, but the kids are people, right? And we need to make sure that we listen to them too, in various levels or ways that they can, right? I mean, someone in elementary school is different than someone in high school, right? But I think that that is, for me, a core value that you don't do things to people, you do things with people.
It's
That's
about
a value I can
representation.
do. But I think it's not just students, it's, you know, so educators, families, like,
No, you're right, you're
yeah.
right. But the students are usually not named, so that's
I
why. it's being
100%
called
get
out.
that, but I just don't feel like just carving out one piece of it is, like, the last thing you said felt really like higher than that. I can't remember how you worded it, but it felt more visionary and more of a why. About,
Not doing things to people, doing things with people.
yeah,
Mhm.
that feels like yes. I don't know why it feels different to me, but I like, that's more inspirational.
So do you want to say something more like ensuring that all stakeholder voices are heard and represented?
Yeah, I don't like that. I was thinking stakeholder too, and I was like, no, because I mean, I don't know. So I'm good with letting it go. Look, I'm coming off the board in 6 months, in less than 6 months. So
Me too. Should we just be quiet?
no.
Me and Hillary did say we were in favor of student voice, so.
Yeah,
I want to go back to something that would include that. So it's ensuring stakeholders, because students are stakeholders.
Right.
And they are a part of the community. So all ensuring that, so what is your collective why? So we're on here to ensure that all stakeholders' voices are heard or represented, you know, as we make decisions, you know, about the community or our school district, something like that. So what do you think about that?
I don't love it. I like calling student out,
You want-
the
you want
student
to
voice out, because
Separate.
I think it is, yeah, I just,
So here's
I
the
don't know
thing.
how to say.
What if you say all stakeholders, comma, including students, comma, or something like that?
So here's where I see students. So everything we do sort of kind of impacts the students, right? So how can we incorporate what you're saying so that everything we do, decisions that we make is supposed to be in the best interest of our students?
Well, that's a perfect connection here, because everything we do is supposed to be in the best interest of the students. And that's what that number 2, as we've been trying to connect it, is trying to say. I think this other one is trying to say, in order to do that, we need to talk to the students. And naming them is because they typically are not the ones we talk to. We talk to teachers, we hear from parents. This is an instance where the students, even if we went with a statement that said all stakeholders, I would argue and say all stakeholders, including students. I think it has to be named because it is typically left out.
Yes, and for me, I'm just thinking, if I'm a student and I am part of some task force, I still don't think they feel like they actually have that they can actually be represented, that they have an equal voice. I think they feel seen as the ones who are being taught, the ones who are being told what to do. And if we elevate that to, no, you are actually an equal partner in our decision-making process. That's kind of where, like, I want them to feel like, if you just call it stakeholders, they don't think that's them. That's why I feel like calling them out is so important to me.
The student board member role There are
You're
lots,
supposed
there's
to-
policy and practice and trainings around it. I mean, I know that another board nearby recently, got students, I think they got 2 students to be their student board member representatives. So it is just something that I think is, there are a lot of structures around us to help us do this, so that the students can participate. I mean, they can't be equal in the sense that their votes are, what do you call, what's the term that they use? It's like an informational vote or something.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
but the point is, it has a public platform.
Like an
It's
advisory vote.
heard. Yeah, it's advisory. So that's the only reason to call that out, because we don't have something like that now. Officially, right? We do have a student member who comes and gives a report. I don't know if they've been called a board member.
No.
So calling it out would just be collectively, we're committed to doing something about that.
With the UC Board of Regents, they have a student representative and it's a non-voting member. It's the same kind of thing. And what I got from this illustration that was super helpful, we do things to students. And then I got the connection exactly of what you guys
That's
have been
exactly-
saying.
Yes,
We do things
that's the
to-
way we always think about this, like we're doing things in the best interest of
That's right.
students. That's what a lot of public
yeah.
service folks do.
And we never
But
ask them.
you
"Do you
don't
want
bring the
this?"
people in, exactly.
And sometimes you don't get a
exactly.
choice, like it's ed code, we can't do anything other than that. So let's explain why, right? So now this was very illustrative, thank you.
So I was thinking, how can we say?
Wait, maybe I need a picture of that then. Because I can't see that. No idea what's on the
It's a
board
sign,
there.
it's like a sign, with the students and the sign.
I need a visual
Right.
picture of what you're trying to say.
Right, no, that's it.
I'm a
That's
very
perfect.
visual learner too, so.
Well, and I think it's important to note, as you did, Veronica, that this would be a culture shift in our district. Bringing the student voice in, and I think it has been a culture shift over the last year or two, where student voice is more, they've been strong advocates, they've been heard more, and they've really shifted some of the work that we've done. And also it reminds me of something that I remember hearing ages ago when I was a graduate student is, I forget her name, a famous educator out of Stanford, but she was not her, but I love her. I love her. I love her. But she's the former head of the ed department at Stanford, the woman I'm thinking of, and I'm blanking on her name, but she said that districts need to, and I said this when I first started in education, on the board, the districts need to, instead of having their organizational chart be like this, school board superintendent, blah, 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 it needs to be flipped. Students on the top.
That's right.
We're all working in support of and for our students, not top down to our students. So I think that I love that visual of having the organizational chart be flipped, that we are supporting the people who work in the district. And the people in the district are working to support the sites. The people in the sites and the teachers are working to support our students. So, that sort of connects with what I feel like you're saying.
Megan, are you thinking of Linda Darling Hammond?
That's what Donald said. But
Oh, okay.
I'll think of her name in a minute, but she was somebody I heard speak at Mills, and she wrote, I think, The Challenge to Care or something like that, and I'm blanking on her name, and she used to be the head of the ed department at Stanford, but anyway,
Like
it's not important, but
But it
I'll
was-
send it to you later when I'm in the
It comes
shower
back
and I
to you.
remember.
at 4 a.m. Text
All right,
us.
so let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break, stretch your legs, refill your cup, move around, and then we'll come back to this.
Okay.
All right, 5 minutes.
9:20.
That's the name of the book, Megan, Challenge to Care.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
I
looking
can
it
look
up.
that up.
Yeah, I was looking it up.
Yes, Neil nodding.
What's her name?
Nil noddings.
Good job.
Oh, no, I was just thinking about that.
That sort
because
of-
I
sort of
I
dates me.
love that whole thing is how we support the kids,
The flip,
And
yeah.
so, you have the Board of Education, you got all of us down here, all of us are, holding this child up, or making the child successful. What does that actually look like?
What a powerful
job.
image too, right? Visual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, what does that look like to make them
Elevating the
successful?
child.
And how do we work together?
All right.
You know, you brought up something that was interesting because when I left Berkeley, we were working on how we can get our 16-year-olds to vote in school board elections.
Oh, wow. Oh, wasn't that on the ballot? I
Yeah,
feel like I saw that on the ballot.
it's
I
costly.
voted for it.
It's costly.
It's a statewide thing, because we wouldn't have had. something on the
Voting in
ballot
big
for
elections,
Berkeley.
not just school
Oh,
elections.
it was the school board election.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that wouldn't have been on the ballot I saw. I think there was
Oh,
something on the
yeah.
general ballot though
I
about
think
that.
there was.
Because I remember voting for it, right?
Okay.
I think we should let them, they should have a say in this stuff.
And then, you know, there was a lot of questions around equity and, you know, who were the kids that would vote and some kids who wouldn't.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of stuff, you
Yes.
know, that we were working out. And then, of course, I'm tired. Just before the pandemic.
Oh, good timing.
I know. But this is fun, you know, and I think this is really
Yeah.
fun because being away for 3 years and then you had time to reflect, you
This
know.
is all being recorded so that you guys know it's still
Yes.
on.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have time to reflect, you know, and that's a good point on all this work.
Mhm.
It's what I love.
And you get to see it Mom really brought it home for me. It's just that you have time to reflect after being away. And it's almost like, what would I have done differently? You know, going back into the work, you were a part of all of this stuff. Even your responses are different because you're hearing all the stuff that's coming down from the news. It's so easy to be complacent or get upset or discouraged. You know.
Have your reserves depleted.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I have no reserves.
That's why people get all cranky.
Well, this is like, it's like, this kind of work fills your cup back up. It's like, for me,
Mhm.
you know, because I really identify with what you're saying.
No, I
about
think
how
all of us
it's
feel
overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yes,
Version of this.
right. But then you feel like, oh, I'm on this team though. and We're gonna do really good work.
Yeah. 'Cause I know I come back, it's so energized, you know, but you know, that's being away for some time. It's like you wonder why people have sabbaticals and you know, have the summer off to recharge, going into nature, walking, whatever, you know, you take a recharge. When you come back, you have this, you know, this energies that you did not have when you left because you were just so tired and so burnt out. You didn't have anything else to do. That's how I see it. If I'm a little hyper, it's not the coffee. It's not the coffee.
Energized.
Yeah,
Any places to hang this stuff, Samantha, because we can put it over here.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
can put stuff over there.
Yeah.
Right, let's
Is
put
it
it on
okay?
here.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
You need my help.
Thank you. All right, so that goes there.
You want to hang some other stuff up higher or not?
Let's keep this one here because what I like to do is to go ahead and clean it up
Okay,
to what you wanted to say. And then we'll move right into your vision,
okay.
okay? So we'll need Megan back here. Are you done with stretching your legs and?
Let me do one more thing.
Yes, definitely do that and then come back. So Megan, what you do is clean it up. Going from your personal why to your collective, yes. And again, it comes from all of your feedback.
Yeah.
Right here. They can see, everyone can see. And feel free to get up and stand up. Everyone you don't have to sit. If you're comfortable standing up, moving around, I'm perfectly fine with that. All right. So you can ignore that because I was trying to figure out, to remember which ones you wanted to combine, but it looks like it's more than just combining. You may reword some of it, so.
So you do want us to try to articulate these into a
Articulate,
list?
yes.
Okay,
The list that you're comfortable
that we're
with.
comfortable with.
That's
Okay,
your collective one, maybe.
all right.
So.
Wordsmithing, here we go.
I'm turning to the journal.
Yeah, I'm looking at Veronica.
You're great at synthesizing.
You are, yes.
I appreciate it. I appreciate a lot about you. And right now I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome, Veronica.
What I'm wishing is that I had sat closer, because sitting farther is.
You want to-
back
you wanna
here,
change with me?
I can't see.
Which
No,
one?
I'm just gonna get up, like Sapeta
Yeah,
said.
definitely. Stand up.
I'm just gonna get
move
up,
around.
yeah. We don't have to kind of schlep our stuff around. Just move my body.
That's
If
right.
you need to be closer to look at what you have here, it sounded like number one is not going there. So that, did I get that right?
Yeah.
So we are moving to second
Not in the right
sentence,
one.
and you wanted to combine. So let's take a look and see. So go ahead, let's go around. I want to make sure I hear from everyone, and I don't want to forget anyone. So in doing so, let's go around, and so everyone can share thoughts and reflections and your ideas. I just want to make sure I don't, does that make sense? I don't forget anyone. So let's look at number 2 then. Belief in education and what it provides. And then we added,
for all kids.
right, and then you added. So is that a sentence that you want to keep?
Not exactly,
We wanted to.
Okay.
but I don't know how to
Word
word
it.
it.
Okay.
I mean, I was something brief.
I'll take a picture and I'll sit down there.
What part of that do you all like and would like to keep?
You said something, Hillary, around education, like not a public good, but you said something else.
Something like education is a public institution that all students have a
Somebody said a right.
right,
That was
a right,
Cheryl.
a right to a public education.
But it's more for me, that's not quite what I meant. Like, I know we have a right to a public education, but I actually just believe that education, I just believe in education as a
It's
common
the
good.
power, it's the power of public education, right? I think that you're trying to say in terms of
Well, not even public
improving
education.
or education, but I'm just saying it in terms of the positive benefits to society, right? I mean, that's what you're trying to, well, I don't know. I'm like shouting out from the sidelines, but like,
You should shout out, thank you.
I don't, so I mean, it's a little hard to track online. What are we trying to do right now?
You're trying to come up with your top few, it can be 2 or 3, shared your governance, shared why.
Oh, top
you
2 or
are.
3. Okay. That's where I was struggling.
And you already kind of did, but we need to clean it up so you're comfortable with the language, because it needs to be yours, right? It needs to be something that you come up with and you're comfortable with.
We're trying to say that we believe in the value of a public education because it's like the foundation of our community, you know, I mean, we all came into this, we're all here because we all value public education as a fundamental. This is when you take over, Veronica.
She's writing.
I have to write, when you have
That's
to
what I have to do.
I can't do it out loud, I have to like. look
Veronica,
at it.
You know, and write on the board, that's okay too.
Okay, well,
If it
yeah,
gives you more
Donald's
space-
gonna do the board, I'm gonna work on my paper,
If
but
it
yeah.
gives you more space to write on the board, again, I want you to be
Okay.
comfortable. Okay, I just want us to be mindful of time, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it's hard, you know, when you start the wordsmithing, it's hard for everyone to agree. I wonder if we can just pick the 3 and then kind of wordsmith them. Okay,
I was thinking it's for me, it's not the value of public education. I believe in the power of education. And so, and that it's sort of the cornerstone or the bedrock of opportunity and democracy and thought exchange and advocacy and all those things.
We believe in the power of public education as a fundamental.
Again, not public, I don't believe in public education. I believe in education. I mean, we're in a public service. I mean, this is public, but I believe in education. That's what my personal belief is.
Well, I would extend that public education should provide, ensure opportunities for everyone, for all students to access education, to access the benefits of education.
That to me feels like the cultivate the K-12 climate of inclusivity. Well, maybe it doesn't. Never mind. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, she's adding the public to what you were saying, right?
That's fine. I'm fine with that. That's not what my personal intention was, but I'm fine with that. But the access to, because I get it, education, people who go through a private route have a different, but anyway.
So you're still on that number one, right? Wordsmithing that number one.
Well,
You
number
may
one,
end up
oh,
it's combining,
number
right?
one and number 2 and 3, right?
What about 6? Would that be separate from these?
I would think of it as separate. For me, it's separate.
Yeah,
Sort of the
that's separate.
foundational thing is that we believe that education is, I don't know. But to your point, should we pick the 3 and then wordsmith them through a Google Doc or something? I just don't
Before you
want to lose
adopt-
track of time.
Right, that's fine, and that's fine too. We
That
can
was
keep
Veronica's
it
point.
as is, and then you can all think about it, click on it, and wordsmith as needed. But we do need to know which 3, so maybe
I think
So I-
5 and 6 are combined, right?
so let's do the
Okay,
first one.
okay.
So you had belief. What was it?
The value of
The value of
education.
belief in the value of public education and what it provides. The opportunities it provides for all kids. Is that what, okay. Belief in the value of public education.
That's kind of it in a nutshell. And I would say the second one is the belief that education is a human right and all children deserve.
And the opportunities.
Yeah, that language.
Sorry, belief in the value of public
Yeah, go ahead and finish
education.
that one. Okay.
And.
Period. That one's
Okay,
about
for
that.
all?
No, we want to
No,
say,
the second,
Okay.
Now,
that would be the
2
first-
is the next half of the sentence.
yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say, the second one I think could be about believing that education is a human right and that all children deserve, right? That picks up on the tail end of number 3. All children deserve
Education is a human
an
right.
excellent education.
Education is a
It's
human
a
right.
human right.
Education is a human right,
Mhm.
and all children deserve and this is where we're wordsmithing, so I'm just gonna say something, but it's redundant. All children deserve excellence in education. And this is where we can fold in inclusivity and belonging.
Is it access and excellence? I don't know what the right word is. I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I can't wordsmith it, but something that inclusivity and belonging needs to be in there too.
Excellence in education or excellent education?
and equitable
Yeah,
experiences.
Deserve,
or something like that.
deserve an excellent education. That's what I'm saying. I can't wordsmith it now. It's not gonna come out.
You just do.
Yeah, excellent education.
You
Maybe
already
we
have
need
an
to say
excellent
equity in there
education.
too.
You already are excellent. You're being redundant.
Education.
Which one?
And
Say that again?
You're already excellent. Community believes you're already excellent.
Don't they want us to, this is where we got caught last in our LCAP conversations, when we weren't talking about
They want
academic
it.
excellence. They
Oh,
want
they
it.
want to hear it. Oh, then
They
they
they need to hear it.
Put it in there.
I
but
hear
you
you.
want
I
it
hear
to
you.
I think we're losing it. They think we're losing our excellence, our focus on excellence, right?
Education is a human right. And oh, God, you had it wrong. You just said it again.
I did. Did I say something about
You
all
said
children?
something, I had it right when you said something.
It's something about all,
And-
yeah,
All
and-
children deserve access to, or,
and
I don't know what I
all
said.
children- It's something about academic excellence.
Have a good one.
For all.
Oh,
Amanda.
you can just say that, all children deserve academic excellence.
Or academic excellence for all, something like that. Something she said that kind of took what you said.
And condensed
Yes.
or
I wish
synthesized
we
it.
we're recording it.
We are.
Okay.
Fine.
So it has something to do with academic excellence for all.
Mhm.
Well, my flash of brilliance has been recorded. So.
For all posterity, yeah.
Well, maybe that's just like, you know, if you condense it down, that's the academic excellence for all.
Mhm.
Maybe just put all of
Children
this the
deserve
same.
academic excellence and
Lose a lot of stuff when you do that, when you just condense it down to academic excellence for all, but you also capture it all.
How would I
Go back and
Just say
change it
that
as-
education is a human right and
I think you could combine both belief in the value of public. No, never mind. I just, yeah.
that's
We
the
need
first
to
one is the
fiddle with,
belief.
yeah.
I don't, I'm sorry, but I'm not understanding how education is a human right can be combined with and all children. They're two separate things, right?
No, it's the same thing.
Human right and
If we're saying it's a human right, that means all children deserve it,
excellent
right?
education is a human right.
maybe that would be
Excellence
the
of
way to say it.
education is a human
No,
right.
education is human right. I don't know.
Okay, well, let's just stop.
Here's what I suggest you do. Come up with the third one, if you have a third one, and then you can continue working on it. And maybe at the end, if you have time, we can go back, right?
Equity.
I
what would
think
the
it should be
third one
about
be?
inclusivity, equity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like what you have there?
Something, I don't know. It's not inspirational
Well,
language.
equity could be in number 2, and then student voice could be number 3. If Sapeda's saying we should have 2 or 3, we're working our way into 4.
I think keeping it short and simple
I always believe
is
it's
always
simple.
good. When statements are too long and complicated, you just lose interest, right? So that's the only reason why I suggest that. But remember, this is all your word and your beliefs and values, not mine. So you have to be
I
comfortable.
think we could do 4. I mean, one could be around equity and the full, and it doesn't have to be in that order, but I think
Right.
equity should be high.
Yeah.
So the third one then, were you comfortable with cultivate climate for inclusivity and excellence in learning? You're using excellence, I guess it's something similar. Yeah,
We'll put it down in wordsmith it, so.
okay.
Yeah.
And you're comfortable with the language, you just use it, right? Cultivate.
And for now, I think.
You can
we're-
just put equity there, and we'll figure something out.
Okay.
Just
For
put
this
equity- Yeah, just put
Yeah, no.
inclusivity and
Okay.
equity there, and then we'll figure something out.
And then did you want to do the student voices as your fourth?
No.
Did I hear you?
I get add and inclusivity.
Sorry, guys.
Inclusivity. Okay.
Also,
I
you
just
have to
feel like
develop,
even
if
three
you
are
go
very-
from student voice, you just have to hold a poll.
And we'll
with
come,
students.
we'll come back.
You know, they know it's
Yeah,
coming.
definitely.
It's a
After you have
real
had some
value.
time
Say
to
that
speak.
again. It's not a value, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Or it's
It
not
is a
a,
value. It is a value.
it's not
a
a,
process.
it's not a why, it's a how. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I hear.
And here's it's a how.
Maybe that's where I've been stuck, that it's
The
more of
how
a
than-
how than a why. And I'm not
The
sure.
student voice piece.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes. I just heard my mother. Yeah.
And again, it's, you know, a great example of how we can read the same statement, sentence, and kind of take something different away from it,
Mhm.
is that this is a great example. You're all looking at the same pieces of information and statements, but you're interpreting it differently. And that's what your stakeholders will do as well. So keeping it really simple and short leaves little room for misunderstanding or misinterpretation. So keep that in mind.
But sometimes when you narrow the focus, it opens up to say that you excluded something. So do you keep it broad or do you narrow it down?
I
So
think at the vision level, it can be broad. And then you can narrow it down with the steps and
Mhm.
how you get there. after you have identified challenges and then support systems that need to go.
So that's where Mal comes in, because she said, you know, the why, and then we start getting those steps,
Right.
and then you get into the how, which are the steps. Okay. So
And we'll
we-
get to the how, but you have to decide as a team that that is a how that we'll take care of later. If you're good with that, then we're good. We can move forward.
Okay.
Does everyone agree?
Are we gonna put anything at all for the including stakeholder voices, or
I
is that?
think
going
that's
much
a how,
down?
it's a,
Too much of a how?
Yeah.
But we should hear from Corey and.
Definitely. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Cheryl's had her hand up for about a minute.
Don't put your hand up anymore.
Yeah, just shout. That's what I'm trying to tell her.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't-
sorry, I did unmute about 5 times, but I start talking, it's just hard, right? Because I don't want to interrupt other people. But in the, something just someone said, in the spirit of, you know, engaging our stakeholders, I just want to remind the board, and I'm just checking, Dr. Evans, I can send it to you real quickly. But on May 13th, there was from the group who had an academic excellence forum that had, I attended that. There were at least 40 people there. And it said, based on a workshop involving parents from across grade levels and several educators, it was 3, we worked to come up with a preliminary definition. So we may want to just skim that because it has a lot of really good information around high standards, equitable access that ensures and builds upon foundational skills, content knowledge, student choice. So just, we may want to take a look at that statement just to see if there are things that the board really does agree with, that there's an opportunity here to take what has been shared with us and integrate that. I think that would really go a long way for that group that we were hearing from, just to know that their efforts were heard, especially since this is the work we're doing and that just came to us. And
What was the whose work group? Which one?
Al.
Oh, Alps. Thank you.
right.
Do
in
you,
the mall-
Cheryl, are you thinking it, like, should we resend it? Or, I mean, you think you should look at that now, or people are looking, should look at it later?
Yeah, I mean, I think sooner than later as part of this, because and it is Alps, but Alps has redefined their mission, which is, you know, beyond students who are identified as advanced learners. And there were many parents in attendance at that in that workshop in May. So I'll just resend it now, so it's at the top of people's emails, and we can just, you know, facilitation wise, it can be decided, but I just wanted to put that back on everyone's radar.
Cheryl?
As you get it, maybe you can, if you'd like to share it. That's something you want to look at today, this morning, you can compare with the work that you're doing, or if that's for another time, that's really up to you. But listening to the voices, listening to your stakeholders, of course, hearing what they have to say is really important, and incorporating it into the work that you do, because that's why you are here, right? So, okay, thank you for that. All right, so what I suggest we do then is to move out of your collective why, and let's get into the document that you all have copies of, your strategic plan philosophy. It's a few pages, I think 3 or 4 pages. And it begins with the mission statement. Now, this document is dated 2011, September 14, 2011. It was revised, adopted October 27, 1999, and revised in 2011. So it is older. Now, my hope is that you can get to all of this and actually review and wordsmith, revise as you need. So there is no, I did not find a vision statement. There's only a mission statement here, that paragraph. So I invite you to take a look, read that mission.
Where the vision is just how we shape the future.
So shaping our future was, we had two two big, huge community workshops. One was called Shaping Our Future and the other was Shaping Our Future 2. And so this, I think, is from Shaping Our Future 1. Much like we had one of those huge kind of the maps that are on the board up there.
Okay.
And it was, I think there were probably 150 people who came together, parents, educators, students, board members,
Mhm.
community members. And these are the things that resulted from a half-day workshop, much like this. So Shaping Our Future is very specific, and that's why it's in quotes that way. I didn't answer your question, I'm just.
Sounds like it's crafted kind of a vision for your
It
district,
was,
but
yeah.
it wasn't called a vision.
Vision.
That's why,
Right?
the word vision is here.
Yeah,
But yeah.
but it doesn't say, yeah. So what is a vision? And why do we need to have a vision statement, right? If you look, the vision is the ideal future for your district. Where do you want this district to be? And this is long after you all serve on this board, right? What is the vision? Because if there's no vision, vision is very much like a compass. What is the direction, right? And it's really important to have that vision statement for all of your stakeholders, your students, your staff, the parents, the community members. And so what I like all of you to do is to spend a few minutes thinking, reflecting on what is the vision for Piedmont Unified School District. Just personally, from your perspective. And then we get to the collective. Okay, so we always start with the personal, and then we move into the collective. So personally, don't think about the shared vision. Describe your vision for Piedmont Unified School District from your perspective. Remember, as you are writing, reflecting that your vision statement answers 3 questions. Who are we? Where are we going? And who are our customers, clients? Who do we serve? One more minute. as we go around, you can put your post-it on the board, but explain, just share with your colleagues your vision for your district. We'll go around and we can all share, we can all hear each other's personal vision for your district. Or vision from your perspective.
Wait, are you guys writing it on Post-its? What?
Yes.
Do I have to say, I feel like I have to text you? Hold on.
Yeah, you can just text me.
Is everyone ready? Not yet. Okay, okay. That's all right.
Corey, do you want to go first? Let me put your Post-it up there, kick things off.
Sure, I'll try. So with I'm just supposed to read what I said and then give some comment to it. Is that the idea? What's the request right now?
Go ahead and share, please, what you wrote. What's
Okay.
your perspective, the vision for your district.
Did she have to do more than one Post-it?
No, I got you on to one.
Nice.
Those are the other two are my ramblings.
Oh, okay. So here's what I wrote. PUSD provides the foundation. And I wasn't sure if that was the right word. So in parentheses, I have like skills, knowledge, competencies, ? so that all of our students can realize their potential and make a positive difference in the world. So I was trying to encapsulate, and this is somebody who was struggling. And Veronica, I was thinking about you and people talking about vision and not knowing what a vision is. So this is all in the backdrop of saying that I was trying to encapsulate that we, in service of our students, right, kind of keeping that idea in service of our students, what we are providing is for our students, and what I want them to leave us with, right? I want them to leave us with something so that they can make a positive difference in the world. But also just, I was thinking that sounds so broad. I also just want them to leave fulfilling their potential, or being able to realize their potential because of things that we have done for them, right? Because of things that we've imparted to them, or because of ways we've taught them about critical thinking, or kind of all the things on that. So that was I tried to encapsulate all of that in this long sentence.
So as colleagues share, try for all of you, try to pick up on themes that emerge and just make a note of it. So themes that emerge from all of your perspectives. Keep a list of it, and we'll come back to it. All right. So Hillary, did you want to go next then, since yours is already up there too?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Corey was saying, I don't do this normally in my life, right? Visions and missions, so I struggle a bit, but I just kind of, not as much, but just saying educate students and support them to reach their maximum potential. I think we're an exemplary district committed to providing all students the education skills to live and thrive.
Thank you. And again, keep track of any emerging themes. All right, who would like to go next? Veronica, did you want to go next?
I'll go.
Yeah, just go in
I'm
order,
struggling with the wording here, but I'll
That's
just
okay.
throw out the concept, because this is borrowing something from another, I don't want to say their vision verbatim, but I mean, I think it captures pretty much what we want to do. I mean, we want to make sure that for me, what a vision would be making sure that every student graduates and they're ready for college, they're ready for the world of work, and that they know how to participate in public life or civic life as an active and engaged person who can navigate our democracy, right? So that's one. The other one, the other vision is that we have a climate of inclusion, belonging, and restorative justice that is regularly practiced and ingrained.
Can take those for you.
Okay.
So let's go around that way then.
Come on, put them up there.
Mine is wordy because I can't help myself. In the way I see vision is really about where we could be, want to be. So I wrote the PUSD vision is to create a transformative anti-racist educational experience for all students, where students demonstrate self-care and empathy for others, interdependence, understanding of historical significance of race, power, and privilege, and use it for the common good, while demonstrating resilience and deep academic engagement and preparation for a future of their design.
That's all here?
No.
Oh. I'm like, wow, how did you do that? I'll give you
Really small writing.
Okay, I see, okay.
I just bulleted.
Yeah, no, I like that. And
I never heard that future of design.
I like the
I like
future
that.
racist district.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't mind me over here.
And for all of you, move around if you need to write something on the board.
That caught my ear too.
Yeah, the future. I like that.
Caught my
I
ear
like
too.
that.
Mhm.
All right,
I like that.
Megan.
I sort of did also, when I was thinking of what would our what would I like to see changed in our district from the perspective of like my kids who were students here and some of the things they had to learn once they graduated from Piedmont and things that I felt like were absent in their education maybe, or, you know, areas that I wish they'd learned more about, as well as having been a teacher here, but help develop students into citizens who are responsible and compassionate, are well-educated and find joy in learning, and who are aware of their privilege.
Very good.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 Megan.
Yeah.
And I think for my kids, once they left, you know, Piedmont, they're like, oh, not everybody had this in their school, or, you know, anyway.
Yeah, this is things I have not heard before that stand out to me.
Perfect, because that's what we'll get to next. Kind of creating themes that are emerging. Okay.
Cheryl, do you want to go next?
Go ahead, Cheryl. Did she text us anyone?
I can't see the
I
comment.
think she might have gone.
Thanks.
No, she's there. Go ahead.
I'm there, just finding my unmute button. Okay, so the easiest thing would be to say, put an asterisk to what Dr. V said. I didn't catch all of it, but I think the gist, but want to also just, while I'm unmuted here, take the opportunity, and I know we'll look at the LCAP, but where we were in creating or writing the LCAP for the 22-23 school year and wanting to name, sorry, there's noise outside the hotel room, note or remind people of, you know, our commitment and our vision. Just want to read the couple of sentences or that were included in this one, and just because it's something that in this exercise, or not knowing we were going to be doing this, but putting the LCAP forward for this 22-23 school year, just to be, we should be mindful of. Okay, so in the LCAP, it has our previous mission statement, and then it says Piedmont's LCAP vision statement is all means all, raising future leaders who think critically for the benefit of all. And then to achieve this vision, PUSD commits to becoming an anti-racist school district where all staff members work together to identify every inequity within our system, do the work necessary to change inequitable practices and the culture that created them, and repair harm whenever it is caused to individuals or our community. So I know that a lot of that in achieving the vision is the how, but it speaks to what Dr. B shared. And I think too, maybe Veronica, when you talked about restorative practices, when Marguerite named being an anti-racist school district. And I think Corey, and something you said around, you know, people, our students graduating and realizing their full potential. And so that raising future leaders, and then adding the piece who think critically for the benefit of all. So there's a lot going on in my hotel room with getting the kids off to California adventures. So I didn't piece it together, but that's my contribution as of right now from a distance here.
Thanks for sharing this, Cheryl. All right, Amal.
First, I want to go to California adventure with your kids.
I know, right?
I'm just kidding. So I'm hearing a lot of the same things I have. So what I wrote was, because I was thinking of, you said vision, so I was trying to anyway, a learning community that is rooted in excellence, access, wellness, inclusion, and equity. And then I have students, and then we produce students, I didn't know the right verb, but we produce students who are lifelong learners, curious, engaged, and who recognize, respect, and celebrate the inherent dignity in each of us.
Inherent
Dignity
dignity.
in each of us.
I actually started out with, and I had seen this in another district where they started with, what is the portrait of a student? So thinking about what can we say here in Piedmont that we want all of our students to be exposed to or have access to? What makes us so unique from everybody else? By coming to Piedmont, our kids they will experience boom, 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 boom. That's the Piedmont student. And so, and this is a person coming from the outside. So when I think of a Piedmont student, I think of success with academic excellence. So I'm thinking, how do we get to that point? How do we get our students to think critically about their environment? I'm just taking words because I'm thinking about the student. So I came up with words like academic excellence or committed to excellence. How do we prepare? Well, it's not really prepare, but how do kids excel? Because kids are already prepared in so many ways. So we want them to go to the next level. So I'm using words like excel as opposed to be prepared. But prepared is a good word because I like someone said future endeavors or future of their design. And how do they thrive in a global society? You know, and so what do they need to do all of that? But those are the things that I think of when you're coming from, let's say, people would say they're aware of their privilege. So what does that look like when you are aware? But how do you use that to better the world or the global society? So because that can be a positive thing too. So how do we take these attributes that we want kids to have as a result of being here? How do we take those things and build on those things so that they can have a significant contribution? Because when you have more, a lot more is expected of you. So what does that look like for us? That sets us apart from everybody else. Yeah, I didn't know what it looked like.
That's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So whichever post that
Okay.
you want to put up, that's okay. If it's just a list of words, that's all right. That's what we're going to work from
Mhm.
to kind of extract the themes that are emerging to create your vision statement. And again, once you create it, it's still yours to edit and revise till you adopt it. You may want to share it with other stakeholder teams as well before you adopt it. All right, Ruth, what do you have?
Oh, I want to go back. What's that phrase? Now you can help me with this, Veronica, or Dr. V. Much to him, much is given, much is expected. That's how I see this.
I like where, I like that a lot. I could, when you said that, aware of their privilege, it's like, oh, that, like, that's a moment where it's like, oh, right, but like, we haven't done that. We haven't,
And aware of the responsibility that
And
goes with
it comes
that.
with that.
yes.
It makes me think of the Spider-Man. What's the
Yes.
Spider-Man line? It's the
With
great
great power
power
comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
See, I
That's how
can
I
quote
see
Marvel
it.
movies. I can't write a vision statement. but I can quote Marvel
So our
movies.
vision comes from Spider.
Our vision comes from Marvel movie. Is that where we're going? All right, we're done.
All right, well, now you can tell the person that's not a parent and it's not an educator, comes from the, business background. Mine is completely, well, not.
You bring us
completely
down
different,
back to earth.
but It's a little, it might not even be really considered a vision, but a district where the community values for an excellent education are embodied in the preparation of staff, relevance of curriculum, richness of educational opportunities, and safety or conduciveness of the educational environment.
Yeah.
I like the word body too.
That was,
Mhm.
don't cut themselves short. That was great.
A little bit more, a little bit less focused on the student, actually, to be honest.
But very important,
Yeah.
kind of critical.
Mhm.
Well, and brings into that aspect that I think is important to include of the safety in our schools where kids feel like they can take risks and the staff feels the same way. And
And one piece that I wanted to also capture is when I think about academic excellence is that relevance of the educational, of what we're teaching, and whether that's being upgraded and it, sort of kept current and that comes with it. Something that the district does value is educator professional development. So I wanted to, just thinking of from the investment perspective, what is it? Why I'm here is to figure out what to make sure that we're investing in whatever the values of the board are. So.
Okay. So now, how do you go from your personal vision, from your perspective, your collective vision for your district? And we had some common themes as you were sharing. The next step is to think about and reflect on some of those emerging themes. And what we're going to do is to just write down those words as you think of them, or the themes that have emerged. And that's all we're going to do. So write around your vision statement. You see the circles for the themes. Let's come up with, or maybe more, you may have more. And then based on that, you're going to then together create a paragraph, sentences for your vision statement. Okay. So think of what kept on coming up as you were all sharing.
I wrote down a future, how are we doing this on our own right now?
You can do it on your own. You can also just go ahead and write it on the poster, write around. So right around here, we're going to use this space. No sentences, just words and anything that comes up. Move this up to give you more room.
And Corey, text me what you want me to write.
And you're not just writing from your own perspective,
Should we
right?
just write it on a Post-it and stick it on there?
Oh, no, you're going to write actually on this piece. Write around your vision statement.
Because it's supposed to be just words.
Just words. It's not a full sentence. So come on up and just write your word.
I'm gonna take
Or what
somebody
you
else's
discover
word.
it.
I'm gonna take somebody else's
Privilege.
word.
Okay.
PRIVILEGE.
You want to put.
Oh, my,
Whenever
Yeah.
I'm writing on the board, I lose my ability to spell.
I know.
No D though,
okay.
no D.
Yeah, so that's okay.
So I stole that from you, Megan.
So anything that came up, go ahead and. So what did we have, Hillary, from you? Aware of their privilege, okay? Transformational. Transformative,
So we
okay?
can work.
Yeah. Okay. What else come?
I'm gonna go read what I wrote. I
Sure.
already forgot.
And it doesn't have to be your own. Again, what came up for you, what you kept on hearing? Or what do I include? City. Oh, civic. Sorry.
What is it?
My V's look
Civic.
like R. My R's look like.
Oh, civic responsibility.
I thought it was sync responsibility, like, oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, I have difficult writing too.
One thing I didn't hear was, and I think you kind of alluded to it, is having kids, you said feel safe. And I was looking at being secured and then nurtured. Thinking about our primary kids. That whole nurturing element,
And I was, yeah, that makes
because
sense.
you kind of,
I was thinking
that's
more
what I thought
of
of.
the physical space and.
Because kids need to be more so now, come to school and feel safe. And
Emotionally and wellness.
Mhm.
That's what I meant when I meant wellness. That was sort of,
Oh, well,
that
okay.
was shorthand for that, but I think it's better. Did you put
More
that up
than
there?
that.
Mhm.
It's nurturing and safety.
I like the whole well-being, well-being. wellness.
Mine was trying to be shorthand, because to me, me, I always learned a vision statement is really short,
That's what I
right?
was thinking.
Like, I was, and my go-to is happiest place on earth, right? That's Disneyland's vision,
Mhm.
speaking of Disneyland. And
Happy-
so that's when I think a vision should be super short, but it's
Absolutely.
much more complex when we're talking about an educational
Right.
thing, so.
So it's kind of like up here though. That's
Yeah.
why it's got to be
But I like,
encompassing of everything.
I think it can still be short though. I mean.
we can get there, I
It
think.
can
but-
still be short, because you start thinking about all these concepts and you find like 4 to 3 to 5 words and you're like, that's pretty much.
Yeah, encompasses everything.
Right,
Yeah.
we sort of boil
I
it
mean,
down.
you can explain it all, but
That's
if
right.
you boil it down.
Then you get into that, how. And you add
Kind of
concepts.
goes with maximum potential. I like Dr. Z, the future
I love
of their design.
Mhm,
That's just super powerful.
mhm.
Like it ends with that. There's a lot there, you know?
Mhm.
Well, one of the things that I had to advocate for in the really difficult district was I argued that we were deciding someone's future and that wasn't our role. It was our job to ensure that everybody was able to go to college or career ready. It was a family decision on what happens next. And it was very clear, discipline, academics, very clear that we were making decisions about children's lives.
But it is our job to make sure they're prepared so that they can have that choice.
Correct. And it was clear that we were cited by human rights violations and all sorts of.
I think that students would say there's one expectation for students.
That's
Go
exactly
to
right.
four-year college.
And not
Not
just
only
any school.
Just
Yeah.
before your college.
Right.
Not just any school.
But I think that would speak to students,
Mhm.
that statement. And
We say that they are not their parents' design.
Amal, you're getting crazy. Come on.
But that's why we don't have
What'd you say,
to
Corey?
I said, Amal, you're getting crazy. Come on.
Calling out the elephant in the house.
But in our community, I'm thinking, I think the community would say that they want their child's experience here in Piedmont to be transformative. They want the above and beyond. It's just not right here. That expectation is here.
That makes sense. I think transformative is more around engagement and curiosity and lifelong learning. And isn't transformative isn't Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, like, I don't know.
Mhm.
So
But it can't be all of those things, right?
it can be, but
Unfortunately.
and unfortunately, people impose sort of a much more, so I like transformative in the way I think about it, but I worry about what other people think about it. How other people react to that word. This is me being cynical, I'm sorry. I'm being cranky in my cynicism. So,
But I think, Amal, you bring up a good point, and I was noticing that when I was reading some of our previous, list of whatever it was, not this one, but the one that was just kind of a list.
oh yeah,
Anyway,
beliefs. the
but it's
beliefs.
like, some of those could be so interpreted differently
Mhm.
to make sure we have
Mhm.
language that's very clear about what our vision is. You know what I'm saying?
Clear or simple? In a
Simple
so
or-
that-
Yeah, because I mean, if we just say excellence,
Would you define it? Like,
Right.
your vision is there, but then there's always something behind it that says, this is what we mean by that.
right,
Mhm.
The vision is succinct, but the definitions you get to.
Yeah.
Really decide,
okay,
right?
that makes
So
sense.
you would define it more in your steps or your actions. That's where I see that type of thing.
Mhm.
Like even transformative, what does that look like in your steps and your actions?
And for me, when I was using the word transformative, I tied it to anti-racist districts, because we're not. That would be transformational.
Right.
If that would set PUSD apart. If we became that, holy cow.
And so I pulled it out. Yeah, no, yeah. Because I thought it was narrowing, but I wouldn't define it in terms of my steps.
Right, right. Because if we have it just on its own, it could be interpreted.
That's exactly. And I
Very
wanted
differently.
you to interpret the way you thought it should be,
Right.
even though my steps would show what I really mean.
Okay, so are you happy with this as it is right now? And who wrote joint learning?
I did.
You get that so much.
I love this.
In the beginning.
All right, this is it's the pillar, right? It's
That's
the
right.
framework. What happens if you don't find joint learning? You know, there's great work done by Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. She's a positive psychology researcher. And she did quite a bit of work on brain activity. And when our brain is in a happy state of being, the brain cells are more receptive. I visualize them in a simple manner, that simple language, that they're open. Imagine, visualize flowers opening up. So they're more receptive to learning. They're more creative. So the more we can bring that back into your district, into every classroom, the more you're going to get everything else. Because none of this is going to happen.
That's right.
None of that. If you don't have the students, if you don't capture their heart and their mind in the classroom.
And you might extend that to say joy in teaching, because kids aren't going to have joy in learning
Absolutely.
if the teachers don't have joy in teaching.
This joy needs to be part of your culture and needs to be seen and felt to the heart in everyone who crosses your path, the path of your district. Everyone, your bus driver, your nutrition staff, your yard duties. And that needs to be, again, woven into the fabric of your culture. If you do that, I guarantee that everything else is going to follow. But we miss that and we overlook the joy. And then you're all trying to capture all of these wonderful, other areas, but how can they thrive when they're not having fun? When the brain cells are not receptive, they're closed off. Does that make sense? I used that term one of the workshops, and I got someone who said, "No, brain cells don't really open or close." I'm like, "Well, just try to understand."
There was something on NPR that said they do. I mean,
Thank
yeah.
Exactly.
It's with memory,
I'm
connected
going
with
to
memory.
our doctor and say,
That's right.
because to me, it's the solution is simple. Often we're trying to find complex solutions to simple problems. The problem is simple, right? Education has gotten so really complicated. The teachers have so much that they need to make sure their checklist after checklist, that they're not really in tune, they're not really connected to the students. To make sure that that joy is evident in their teaching, that then they can see it in the learning by the students.
So school climate might be something.
Oh, culture and climate.
School
Can we put
climate.
that up there?
Culture and climate is everything. If you're familiar with the work of Peter Drucker, who famously said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch and dinner, right? I mean, doesn't matter what strategic plan you have, doesn't matter what philosophy you have. If the culture does not support it, then all that work is sitting on a shelf collecting dust.
We had talked about, we did the vision boarding. This was before Veronica and Hillary were on the board, we did a vision boarding exercise. And collectively, we talked about joy in learning. We each came up with our own version of it, but it was synthesized into joy in learning. And that felt really like inspiring.
Love that.
Can I say one more thing? So when I heard that, it just reminded me of creativity and kids thinking outside the box. Because to be able to solve some of the world's problems is going to require our kids to think outside the box. And so that's when you start getting into thinking critically about the situation that we're in, the problems, the whatever, just thinking critically in general. I was just thinking, how do we get our kids to think outside the box as they're being to excel and compete in the global society?
And that gets also back to a safe environment, to be able to make mistakes, to be able to take risks, to be
Create an
able
environment
to
to do that.
space to create and not just be.
Mhm.
Couple of things I want to mention. Number one is that outside the box thinking concept. But I like to, for all of you, I invite you to think of this concept as edge of the box concept, right? Something that I actually created part of my dissertation. So we're all familiar with outside the box thinking. We always invite everyone think outside the box. Well, what does that mean? To me, if you're outside the box, you don't really have access to what's in the box. What's in the box would be very informative and important because that's your historical perspective. So I invite you to take a different approach and start using edge of the box thinking. So think, reflect, feel from the edge of the box. How does that look? If you imagine a box, that's your environment, that's your district in your case. And if all that your employees know, your staff, your team members, is what's in the box, well, this is how we have always done it, right? We hear that. This has always worked. This is how we have always done it. Then you're limited to what's in the box. If you think outside the box, you may lose that historical perspective that's really important, so we don't make the same mistakes. If you imagine, visualize a ladder drops, I'm very visual, so I need to, and you're climbing up, you're sitting at the edge, and now you have access to what's in the box, historical perspective. Like you have to figure out and identify your key historians. Why do we do certain things at Piedmont? What's the story or the history behind it? And then at the same time, you have access to what's outside of the box, to be innovative, to look and see what are other districts doing? What do our kids need? What's going on globally? Because you are educating students for tomorrow, not yesterday, not today. You always have to be kind of a step ahead, right? So edge of the box thinking is going to give you that perspective. The other thing I wrote down is someone mentioned something about communicating all of this. Who was it? To your stakeholder. Okay, Corey. Thank you for saying that, Corey. So what's really important, and when I serve on the board, I served on the Oak Park Unified School Board. And I can tell you that as a former board member, from the moment that I was sworn in, I felt that it was such a privilege to sit at the dais. I felt that I was given this huge honor. I was appointed first, and then I went through election and was elected. But I felt that privilege, and with that came responsibility for me that I needed to know, and I needed to now think and advocate for all students, not just my own. At the time, we had 2 kids at elementary school. So I always asked when we were working on crafting our vision and mission and all that, and working on our handbook, how do we know that the rest of our district also knows our mission, our vision, our objectives, our goals? How is it communicated? That's really critical, because a lot of times at the board level, you're spending so much time, so much energy, you're pouring your heart into this, right? On an early morning, you're getting together, you're doing all this work. How do you know, and how do you ensure that it's communicated? And how do you know that what you say you want to see for your students is actually it's shown in action in every inch of your district, from your classrooms, your cafeteria, your bus, your playgrounds. How do you know, and how do your stakeholders, how do they know of all of this great work? So think about how that's communicated, because a lot of times boards sit together, they come up with all these wonderful documents. And then if I ask a teacher, or if I go and ask the staff member, what's the vision for your district? What's your mission? Why do you exist? What are your top priorities? Would they be able to say what it is, right? So creating it is one, communicating it is next, bringing it to action is actually just equally important. Because we always tell students, be respectful, be a good citizen, all of that wonderful messages. But how does it look in action? If you're saying be respectful, how would that look in a classroom? I think we missed, not that I think, I know we missed on that point. There is a gap between theories and concepts and action. And that's what needs to be part of the culture, that we don't just set these policies, it's evident in every action. And you as the governance team are role models. Like everything you do, everything you say is seen. And the students, whether you know it or not, students are looking up to you as what leadership looks like. Unfortunately, in our country, we don't have necessarily great leadership for our students to learn from, for our children. And so these groups coming together as the governance team to become it for them.
Absolutely.
And that's what I see missing, because I do this work all the time, and great time and effort and funding is spent on creation, it doesn't come to practice. And then some years from now, another group comes in and they create their own. And again, there is a gap, and this cycle just keeps going on. And that's why you're still facing the challenges you're facing, even though everyone knows the roots of the problem and how it needs to be fixed. But again, there's a gap between policies, between the concepts and theories and action. Right, I love this list. What I absolutely love is joy in learning, curiosity. Dr. Maria Montessori once said that teachers have nothing to teach. All you can do is create that safe environment for students to be curious, to awaken children's curiosity. So based on this, then you're going to spend some time, and maybe that's not going to happen right now. I don't know, because I want to make sure you have a chance to look at the rest of your philosophy, strategic plan. But based on these words, then you come up with your vision statement. What's your ideal future for your district? And you can combine and wordsmith and make it really inspirational and powerful, but making sure that you don't lose the heart in all the fancy big words. You have to make sure we capture the heart. Now, I want you to think about your educational journey for a moment. Think about, and if throughout this morning, if you have more words to add, please go ahead and do so. Again, this is your work. I want you to feel comfortable adding and making sure that each of your voices are heard. So think back to your educational journey and think of a teacher, educator, someone along your journey. Maybe it was a neighbor or a bus driver, someone who really inspired you and made you feel so big and smart and worthy, right? I think that when I think back, I can remember both. The ones who really made me feel like I knew nothing, right? Or the ones, and it's usually just one or two, who just made me want to learn, inspired me, empowered me. And I thought, wow, I feel smart. So think about that for a moment. See if you remember their name and how they look.
Oh, yeah.
There's a quote that I love by Josh Shipp, and he says, every child, every kid is one caring adult away from a success story. So all it takes is that one. And I'm sure you have been that caring adult for many, you continue to be. But all it takes is that one caring adult. It's not hard. You know, when I see and I hear of stories of criminals and shooters and all that, I always wonder, along the way, there must have been so many individuals who could have identified that troubled child, that troubled young adult, who could have intervened. When you know someone is not well, they don't necessarily have to say anything. You know it, you can sense it, you can feel it. Right? So there's great responsibility in the power that you have as being on the governance team. So think of that person. I'm just going to go around and just quickly share maybe the name of the person and how they made you feel. So really briefly, how did they make you feel? So this time, let me start with the mom. Do you remember the name?
Actually, I do, because I have to say the person is my mother.
Oh, wow.
So, I'll skip for a moment.
It's okay.
Come back to me.
I'm gonna do the same thing.
Well, no, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's really hard. So, my mother just had this deep held belief that I could do anything I wanted and be anything I wanted. And that the power was in me to do those things. And I can't tell you how she did it, but it was there. And I just, it was a great basis from which to kind of attack life and get into life. So that is my mother.
Love that. For sharing that. And again, it's not necessarily the words, it's how we feel. You don't have to say anything. It's how you were made to feel, right? Thank you for sharing. And it's perfectly fine to be emotional. It's fine. You know, we're human and we have a heart.
Corey's
Yeah.
laughing because she and I always cry all the time.
I know. I'm like online crying now. I'm like not even in the room. I'm all.
You can always go with me. Not even a professional crier or anything.
It's perfectly fine. Megan.
Well, I thought you meant a teacher, so.
Oh, and it
so
could
I
have been
jumped to that.
along your educational journey, you could select anyone.
Yeah, so I was going to say Senor Solis. He was somebody actually that came into our schools starting when I was in 3rd grade to teach Spanish all the way up to when I was in middle school. He was my Spanish teacher. And I don't know why I've thought about him a lot recently because I'm not a great Spanish speaker because of him. But what he did is he brought humor and dedication and knowledge, humor, like fun to the classroom, as well as really great expertise, knowledge in the language and how to teach kids and how to engage kids. And he had this confidence and great connections with kids, as well as this fun sense of, learning Spanish. We all just loved Senor Solis. It wasn't a very personal thing, but it was inspirational.
Mine would be Dr. Beth Sweetner in my PhD program. I wasn't inspired until I got to that program. And it was in the 2nd semester of my time on campus. As she rescued me because I was about to be fired out of my GA position. But what she did, I didn't know how to write a sentence anymore. I was old. I had no idea. And she taught me how to write. And taught me how to dream and taught me how to look at the world in a different way and that it was okay. So that was my experience. Cheryl's ready.
Okay, Cheryl, go ahead.
Thanks. Well, similarly, my person is a college professor, Dr. Alexa Sandman, and how she made me feel was smart. And that was really the first time that I felt like someone saw me that way. And she empowered me to excel. I remember finishing my master's program and still questioning whether I had what it took to continue and to get a doctorate. And I met with her and she said, absolutely you do, and you should go on to do great things. So that's how she made me feel.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Corey, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'll go. So mine, I went kind of early on. Just one of the first person that popped into my head when you were saying this was my very first softball coach, Mr. Steibeck. I was 7. I was the smallest. I'd never played. I was the smallest, worst player for sure, just learning. And I remember he would hit us these ground balls and said, that God made shins to stop ground ball. There's like some phrase like, so if you got hit, because I would miss. And anyway, there's a whole thing. But the thing that he taught me, like he was so inspirational. He was one of those people who was just so like positive about being on a team. Every single person can contribute. Everyone on the team was important. And you're really only as strong as your weakest link, right? I mean, it was all about the team. And just, it was just an amazing, so it kind of every time I'm in a situation, I'm thinking about the team and the group because of how he did this and how he was so inspirational. So that was mine.
Thank you for sharing. Veronica.
All right, Amal, I'm gonna break a rule again. I have two. I'm sorry, but I'll make it really short. So just education, inspiration. I remember I took a US history class in college. I have Professor Benford, I remember his name. And prior to that, I think I took it as a freshman or sophomore, but like all of K-12 education, you know, history, when I learned it, was learning a bunch of dates. I always said, I can't stand history. I hated history. And I took this class in college because I think it was like one of those distribution requirements anyway. And his lectures were always so interesting. He would tell these stories. And I remember specifically when it clicked was when he gave a lecture one day on ice cream. Like, the heck does ice cream have to do with anything? But it was the most interesting thing. And when he tied it all together, I mean, this is what people do now all the time, good educators, but it was not something that I had experienced until then. So that really, and I started taking history classes and enjoyed it. And then just personally, I'd have to say my grandmother did every kind of thing you could do with needles, sewing and knitting and crocheting and making lace. She did all this stuff. And I learned a lot of those things from her from the time I was a little girl. And, you know, here I was wanting to do these things. And she, like you said, your mother, she just made me feel like I was really good at it. Like even when I was making like funny looking scarves, and I actually did get pretty good at it, but she was always really encouraging. And I just loved spending time with my grandmother because of the way I felt.
I'll only talk about one, but I have had the great fortune of having so many amazing teachers in my life. And that's probably why I went into teaching. I mean, I had a history professor, Cal, who got a standing ovation after every single lecture. It was nuts. But the first one that popped into my mind was Mrs. Vandewater. She's my 4th grade teacher. And she took our class in a school bus across California. Like, we spent the night at Donner Summit talking about the Donner Party, and every child in the class was assigned a flower and a tree to give a presentation on. And I still remember I was a sticky monkey flower and I was the quaking aspen. And it just like, the quaking aspen. No, quaking aspen and a sticky monkey flower. Sticky monkey flower was on Mount Diablo where we started, and the quaking aspen was up in the mountains. And I mean, talk about my brain cells opening up and flowering. Like, she just, like, I remember every single thing that woman did. And she also read us a book about Ishi, who was a Native American. She read it front to cover, and we were like, it was just, she was an amazing, amazing woman. So she was my person, I thought.
I'm looking at Sticky Mountain Flower.
Sticky monkey flower.
Sticky, not
Sticky monkey flower.
you look
It's
up
quite sticky.
Quaking aspen.
Quaking aspen.
Right? She got it still down.
Is that what you did in your presentation?
Probably. She turned me into
Yes,
the
and they can
biggest.
remember all kinds of
nerd.
elementary learning. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the.
That's it. Yep, beautiful.
That's a sticky monkey
Oh, wow.
flower
Oh, wow.
On Mount Diablo.
on Mount Diablo.
Go find them.
Let's move on to Ruth as you're researching more information.
I think I had a lot of good teachers too, because I can't think of one. And so then that led me to think, well, where do I get my, that value in education? And it came from my parents. And that's what I came up with is regardless of what teacher I had, I always knew my value. And, that helped me, and I, always did well. So it kind of, no one teacher really brought it out. It must have come from my parents. So that's kind of how I see it.
It reminds me of a quote, if you know yourself, you can never be lost. And so teaching that self-knowledge and acceptance is first step to any knowledge, right? Knowing who you are and managing yourself. How much of that goes on is part of our education? How much do we focus on that self-management, self-acceptance, right? All right. Mr. Evans.
I have two as well. I think I know my first teacher, first grade, Mrs. Norwood, who has followed my career even up to last week.
Oh my God.
She said, send me the article and feed mine. So as a little kid, I never liked wearing shoes, and you'll hear about it. I like taking my shoes off.
And the different shoes at the.
So I like to take my shoes off, and Mrs. Norwood would allow me to take my shoes off because she said I concentrated better
Oh.
and I did my best work. But she
Okay.
also let me feed the chickens, and I got to milk the cows. And of course, Delaware. And we had dairy farms and so forth. But she has followed my career all the way through to
Wow.
where I am today. And she calls my mom and she always says, now how's Donald doing? How's my baby doing? And she was so pretty and she looked like a mini Lena Horne. And I used to look at her like this. And, oh, she's got to be close to 90. And so, so Mrs. Norwood, and my second person I have to is when I was at Cal working on my doctorate, I had what they call the hardest teacher in the education department. And I remember her saying, you do not choose me, I choose you in terms of dissertations. And she says, I'm choosing you. I'm like, why are you choosing me? And she says, there's something about you that I know that you're going to change education. So I called the report, and when I retired, I said, I didn't do it. She says, not yet.
I love that.
Awesome. What was her name?
Cynthia Coburn. And
Wow.
so she left Cal, and now she's at Northwestern.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
usually, I mean, we choose our chairs, right?
That's
We go
right.
and we choose our chairs, but how
Yeah.
interesting. I love that. So how you felt hearing each other's stories is
Oh,
how you
powerful.
want every student in your district feel, and not just every student, because everyone who crosses path with your students needs to also feel this feeling that we have here. Because that's when you tap into your inner powers. That's when you're most powerful, right? When you're talking about the individuals that you're talking about, we could see it in your energy. We could see it in your, not that we can see energy, but we could see it in your body language and your tone of voice and how you were changing, shifting in your chair, how you felt being in their presence and how that has carried through to today, like to who you are today. So these conversations are really important. I want you to know. And I really thank you for being honest and sharing, because that's how you also connect on a personal level. Having a new interim superintendent, and even having Dr. V here, who's you're newer to the district, it's important to spend the time to connect on personal level. Maybe you have done some of it, I'm not sure, but to continue to work on this, really important. So thank you for sharing. And remember that now you're in the positions to do that for every person in your district. Right, that needs to become, if it's not already, it needs to be woven into the fabric of your culture. The caring, the loving, the nurturing part. Because when you feel cared for, you're at your best. Okay. So with that, any questions, reflections, thoughts? I'll tell you what you're going to do. This type of work, some of you, when we spoke on the phone, and thank you so much for the phone calls. I had the opportunity to speak with all of you, and I really appreciate that. Such work and such workshops are not, this is not quick work, as you can see, right? It's work that you pour a lot of yourself, your heart, your soul, your mind into it. And so it does sometimes take longer to do this work. I just want you to know that you're doing great. It may seem slower, maybe, maybe not. But it's exactly how it's supposed to go. The conversations that you need to have. Okay. All right. So we are on your document here. We will come back to this because I really want you to kind of keep all of those things in front of mind and in your heart, and then you'll come up with a statement, with your vision statement. All right. So on this document that was forwarded to me, your strategic plan, that was then, my understanding is that this is the work, the end result of your shaping our future 1.0 and 2.0. Did everyone know that? Because I learned that from my conversations with all of you. So take a look at the mission statement. And is that still relevant? And is that still what your reason for existence is as a district?
Wow.
So you have had a chance to read it. It's certainly a powerful mission statement, as I look at it and read it from an outsider point of view. But what I like to do is to hear from you on how you feel about it, and is it relevant? Has anything changed? We have had a lot of changes, obviously. We have experienced a lot of changes since the last time that this was crafted. It looks like 2011. Right. So. Let's go ahead and underline what you absolutely love about this paragraph. So what are the words that jump out to you, that resonate with you, that really touch your heart? So let's do that first. Let's start. This time I'm going to start with Megan. Let's underline. Tell me and I'll underline.
Okay, so should I just shout out the words
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
Responsible, collaborative, compassionate, intellectually curious, or actually maybe just curious.
Okay.
Okay. Creative and critical thinking. Safe. I feel like safe and nurturing are very similar. So one or the other, I'd say.
Okay.
And challenging. Well, maybe not. I'm going to take out challenging.
We talked about this earlier as a board in February, I think.
Is this at our workshop?
And I keep looking at the mission versus the vision, and it doesn't match. If that's the vision, then we've got to pull out the language that can address that. So, yes, I think intellectually curious is good, sense of self and community. But we also talked about how we help students understand race, power, and privilege tied to excellence that you were talking about. I mean, so this is just, it's a little short for me to try to figure that out. But I feel a sense of a mismatch. But I mean, I could be wrong.
I felt the same way, but I was pulling out the pieces that were present in there, then definitely seems like we need to add some pieces.
And looking for areas of misalignment is what you're looking for, right? Because all of your documents need to be aligned. Your mission, your vision, your core values, your objectives. And if this is perfect. For now, what I like you to do is to underline or let me know which words are definitely important to you or jump out at you that are important in including in your mission statement. And then we'll come back to the misalignment. That's all right. Does that make sense?
Then collaborative, compassionate, intellectually curious.
Okay.
Those were three. I crossed off impart knowledge. We don't do anything to kids like that. So I crossed that off. But those three, collaborative, compassionate, and intellectually curious.
All right, let's go to Corey.
Hi. So I agree with what you guys have circled. We're still on the circling part. I mean, I think, Dr. V, in addition to what you said, and Megan already said this as well, but I definitely circled safe on there. And the one thing this is going to sound weird. One of the words I circled in terms of the district being dedicated, I don't know, I was liking that in terms of the word dedicated. It felt to me like that meant we were serving, you know what I mean? Like we were dedicated to certain, I liked that I like that word dedicated. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Carol? What would you like to share?
Hi, sorry about that. I think it's the three words that I heard Dr. V mention. Collaborative, compassionate, intellectually curious. And then I think something about, community. But I think it's just important that it's about community beyond our immediate, everyone should, I feel like our immediate, our local community is absolutely important. And I want our students to be thinking about the broader community, the global community. So would want to see it expanded, but keeping the word community would be good.
Thank you. Veronica?
Yes. So I agree with, I think I circled many of the same words that Megan did, and I agree with Dr. V about the mismatch between this and our vision. The only other word that I circled that I don't think was mentioned was nurturing. Actually, when I went through this the first time, I kind of underlined language that I thought was kind of dated, outdated and needed to be changed. So I have those underlined. But then also, Sylvia just shared with me, I was on the subcommittee of the DEI Council. And the subcommittee was focused on BIPOC hiring and recruiting. And as part of that, we kind of updated some of the language, the descriptions about the district. And so one of the descriptions has the same sort of language that you might want to include in a mission statement. So I'll just read it. It just says, Piedmont Unified School District is dedicated to providing all students with a comprehensive educational program that includes a broad-based curriculum, exemplary staff, and an environment that fosters caring, equitable, and inclusive school environment for students. So it has more of the language that aligns with the vision. It's not quite, a mission statement, but I mean, it's going in that direction.
Great, thanks for shortcutting some of our work.
Yeah, no, that's our committee, our subcommittee. did
Caring,
this.
equitable, and what? I'm sorry.
Can we maybe get copies of that? Is that okay? maybe?
Sure, okay.
Thank you, Dr. V.
No,
I think that would
want
be
to clean it up, but I kind of.
Caring, equitable, and what? It'll come to me.
It'll come back.
Great, good. Okay, perfect. That's a great like starting point as well. Okay, Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't underline too much because I just felt like when you list so many attributes, you lose the power of their individuality. So I underlined strong sense of self and community, but I like the idea of including global in front of community. I just think it's a very it's like superlatives. It's not specific to like what Donald mentioned, the portrait of a Piedmont student. I think we can do better.
This, what others have said, I underline responsible, collaborative, compassionate, intellectually curious, a sense of self, thought, and community as part of a broader community and an entitled community. And then I heard us talk about creative and critical thinking and safe, nurturing, which are actually challenging because I do like that.
Thank you. All right.
So I kind of highlighted the words that I thought that I think is my own personal belief that the kids should be exposed to. So I circled intellectually curious, strong sense of self and community, and creative and critical thinking, and safe and nurturing in a challenging environment.
So having this paragraph here with underlying what's really important, what you have identified as important, and looking at what was shared between the two, you should be able to come up with your mission, and from that also your vision. So both of those can be crafted. Does that make sense? You have enough information here for both, and making sure that they're aligned. So sometimes when you're working on them together side by side, you can see if they're aligned or not. Okay.
And just a point of clarification a little bit, because I think I have a different idea of how this, so I want to make sure I'm in the right spot. Because the district did not have a vision, I think this is a vision statement. We have a notion of a vision statement. And I thought that the mission statement said the how. This is how we're going to get there. And so when I think about a mission statement, that's where I think about we're going to be collaborative leaders. We're going to have innovative teaching. We're going to have a culture and climate of innovation. I don't know, I'm making all of that up. So am I looking for the how component? Educate all students to be blah, educate all students to be this, educate all students to be that. And is that how I'm supposed to be thinking, or am I mixed up?
You're not mixed up. So you have a vision, you have a mission statement that you're going to work on and wordsmith based on what was also shared, the one that you shared, right? So that's it's a mission statement, correct?
This is just
That
a
the
description, but I was
yeah.
just saying that it kind of informs what this discussion
Sure.
we're having now.
So these two documents then you can create your mission statement, which is your reason for existence.
Okay.
Why does Piedmont Unified School District exist? What's the reason, right? Now, the vision is where you want your district to be, right? Where you want it to go.
Right.
What's the ideal future?
Yeah.
And that you pull from this. Now, having the two statements and crafting them or recrafting at the same time ensures that alignment that you need to have between the two. And that's what you're talking about, that there is a mismatch, right?
Okay.
Misalignment.
Well, and that's really helpful to me because I get confused between mission and vision. So I just looked up the difference. Did you?
Sure. And you're not alone, everyone, right? I think we get that away.
A lot of times people, yeah,
Yeah.
think
But I-
have a vision statement and it's really your mission.
But I love what it says here. For me, this is helpful. It's like the mission statement defines the objectives
Mhm.
and the vision statement, and it's really restating what you just
Yeah.
said. So a vision statement details the aspiration of
Correct.
the district.
It's the,
Where we
call it the
want to
ideal
go.
future, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I was gonna say, I don't know, it was around when this happened, but we keep saying we don't have a vision statement, but I just noticed this in the corner. This sounds kind of visionary to me. It says, raising future leaders who think critically to the benefit of all.
Boom.
That sounds like a vision statement to me.
So powerful and simple and short.
And that
Yes.
goes speak to what we were talking about earlier,
Yes.
of simplicity,
Mhm.
right? It takes all of this complicatedness and boils it down
I
into.
love that.
Don't you think you have to go through all of this?
Oh, you do, you do, yeah, because this.
To reaffirm what this
we
is
wanna say right
represent.
now.
Yeah.
We may wanna
Wait, is
say
that just on the poster? Wait, turn the camera for a second. What is she
It's on
doing?
the poster on the wall. It's on
Yeah.
the big
Is that the
poster on the
post? Is
wall.
that the big poster?
Yeah.
There, Corey.
That's from
just
the
curious
other
if I sent it to
visioning. Wait, yeah, sorry, I can't see
That's
it.
the vision that
I just
kind of
texted it to
governed
you.
all of this. Yeah,
Oh, it's just slow
No,
going
this
through.
isn't From, this is not, this
That's not from
student-centered ecosystem is from the LCAP from 20, so.
oh.
But we had
okay.
one like that for shaping our future. It's somewhere in the, it probably.
No, wasn't this the second Shaping Our Future Amal? This was
No,
the,
it says
Oh,
at
it's
the
called a student-centered
At the bottom.
ecosystem.
it says our student-centered ecosystem based on the LCAP for 2017
Okay.
through 2020. So this was done only 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's the most recent.
It's
well,
a,
that's kind of a vision statement over there.
But it's interesting because a lot of folks, a lot of school districts use their LCAP as their strategic plans.
We
did.
And they
We
put their
do.
vision, the mission right in there. Yeah.
I don't think we have a vision in ours, though, do we? Do we have a
We're working
vision
on it right
Yeah, I
now.
know, I didn't see one.
in our
I didn't see
LCAP?
one either. I didn't see
I
it.
didn't, and I looked, maybe I missed it, but,
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
okay.
we have goals in our LCAP. That's, I think that's the top level. Yeah.
There were 3 goals, right? That I, yeah, so I
Yeah.
printed them because I wanted to look and see what goals you have. Okay. So the idea of keeping the vision simple, because it needs to be easily understood. The problem with a lot of vision statements and mission statements, they're long and complicated. If you can't tell me as an outsider what your vision is in one simple sentence that I can remember, then forget it, because I'm not going to remember sentences, right? What you can do is have something like that as your vision, but you can say, and we achieve that vision by, and then you listen,
Exactly.
right? These are the conditions that we provide to achieve that vision. So, you know, ensuring joint learning at every level in our educational system. So that's how you can kind of bring in all this work under. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So your mission, your vision statement does not have to have all of that, because that, will you
You don't
remember
want it
that?
to, right?
Right,
You want it to have like this,
Right.
and you
Very-
want your vision statement to be a vision. When you read this, you see something,
right.
right? You
Right.
see, yes, we do want future leaders. So your vision statement should be something that when we hear it, you go, wow, it's in your head, right? You
Yeah.
see something.
so 2 things. One is, that's why I always come back to Disneyland, because it's simple.
Yeah,
Happiest
you see
place on
something.
earth,
Yeah.
4 words.
Or you feel something. You want to see something, feel, or both, right?
And it encompasses like, you know, so
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
creates the entire Disney experience from those 4 words. And then I have to say, I don't love that, because not everybody is a leader, and some people can be contributors that aren't exactly in lead. I just, I don't love that.
Well,
So,
we're not using.
no,
it.
I know, but I'm just saying.
But it is a vision
I don't want to hang
statement.
my head on something saying raising future leaders. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Some people want to be individual contributors.
No,
And
my
they're
only
like,
point of pointing it out was just.
No,
to
no, I
say we
get the
have
point of that.
something, Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
this
get
is
the
a
point.
model in the sense that it's a brief statement that gives you a visual of what we're
100%.
trying to
Yep.
achieve.
100%.
So one thing you mentioned, oh, go ahead.
World citizens or something,
Mhm.
a global citizen. And leaders.
One thing you mentioned, Amal, that I like to offer a different perspective to the leadership aspect is we tend to put buckets of leaders and followers, like these are the leaders. What if we allow everyone to identify themselves as a leader, starting with leading of the self? When you lead, when you learn and you're empowered by the notion that you're a leader, that doesn't mean you have followers and you're leading people, right? You're leading yourself. And so when we get students to feel that sense of, I get to lead myself, I need to make good decisions, I need to do what I need to do to be a good leader, I think it changes it a bit. And so, you know what I mean?
No, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
The problem is people impose a different word vision of what leaders are, right? So it's not, I 100% think that it, we can be our own leaders.
Yeah.
But people have this idea of what that word means.
Yeah.
And it's not as broad and inclusive and basic, and I mean basic in a positive sense.
I know what you mean.
As you're describing it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go down that. I've taken
No.
us down a rabbit hole, but
But it does incorporate the sense of the responsibility that goes with privilege or whatever you.
That was a
That's-
sort of global system, but we're parsing something. We're down.
But that's where in the objectives, the words get clarified, right?
Right, exactly. The other comment I like to make is, we want to stay away from anyone saying, well, I'm just a receptionist, I'm just a teacher, I'm just, no, every person has great power, and with power comes responsibility to make a difference, right? Every person. It doesn't matter what status, doesn't matter if you're seen as a leader or not. So I really invite all of you to really have that perspective. It's a new perspective on leadership, right? In a way. So what I suggest is, I'm going to take a picture of that. I will include it. I will have everything that you mentioned here around your vision statement, all the themes. And then what you will want to do then, I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to do it today, but what you'll do is then when you come together the next time, you will do what you need to do to wordsmith the vision, and then either adopt the how you're going to get there, or further revise it. Does that make sense?
You can say that again.
Yeah.
I totally missed it.
So, no problem.
I got a
So
little peek.
that's going to be your starting point. I'm going to take a picture of what Veronica shared as your potential starting point of your vision. And also what you shared here, what you came up with as far as your themes for your mission, your vision statement. And based on that, that can be your vision, and you're going to achieve this vision by, and then this thing, what you have here.
The mission thing.
The mission.
Right.
So we have the,
Sure.
So when I was looking
Vision.
at this vision, this value statement,
Mhm.
and it says, I was trying to answer these questions, it says, what values are unique to, let's say, Piedmont?
Where are you looking?
I just went online.
Oh, looking at the website. Oh, okay.
It's like, what values are unique to Piedmont? And then what values should guide the operation Piedmont? And what conduct should our Piedmont folks uphold?
Say those 3 words again.
So it says, what values are unique to our organization, to Piedmont? What values should guide the operations of Piedmont? And then what conduct should Piedmont uphold? And I just kind of put it all in perspective for me.
And that's kind of analogous to the beliefs.
Is
and
that the
commitment
belief
section, right?
here?
It could be beliefs and commitments to come out of that, I bet.
What conduct will we uphold?
That was the last one, yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at what you have in your document. You're shaping your future. There's 6 themes supporting that vision. So supporting academic excellence, maximizing individual potential, developing resilience, providing or promoting program adaptability, cultivating a global citizenry. Actually, a number of these were already mentioned, right? And then building K to 12 community.
So, Dr. Evans, can you answer a couple of questions? Because I'm just trying to understand, because this.
This page is out of
What do
order.
we measure?
Oh,
So I was thinking about commitments and beliefs. I was thinking about the parent survey, the student survey, the staff survey.
Mhm.
So I was thinking, okay, and I know this may not be it, but my brain's going, what will the board need to see in order to monitor the progress that we're making,
Mhm.
given this incredibly long list? So I was thinking, I'm already thinking about, what do you need to know? How will Ruth talk about the investment we have proposed and decided if our list for goals for students is double-sided? So I am excited about building this new way of living, but I want to make sure that we don't set the superintendent up for an impossible monitoring process if we don't get this down to something that's manageable. So I was just,
Right.
I was
See,
just,
I see it as a beginning
yeah,
and starting up here and then going down.
yes,
Then you can develop your goals for the
Right.
board to hold the superintendent accountable to do.
okay,
We're not even there yet.
okay, all right, I just was
Because
like,
this is a lot.
this is a lot.
This is,
stuff.
yeah,
This
this
like
is, what we're doing is really big picture right now.
Okay,
But this is, what I'm thinking is trying to get us to narrow some of
we're
this
trying to get
down.
this down,
Right.
okay.
So we're not quite
Yeah.
where you.
Well, I was in a little slight panic. Oh my God, are you
Or
kidding?
maybe I'm wrong.
No, and I think
Steps ahead. You're
something
steps
we
ahead.
recognize
Mhm.
the importance of prioritization
Mhm.
and making sure we're not biting off too much. And I think
Right.
that's
That's right,
something,
and I appreciate that.
I think that's something that we need to address.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us have acknowledged we need to address.
Mhm.
To me, just feel like you're capturing that, shaping our future discussion. So it was trying to capture all of the ideas that came out of that community involvement. I wasn't there, but that's what it feels like to me.
Right,
And I think this is the beginning because, you know, part of this, you really do have to go out into the community.
yeah, we have to come, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and get their input in terms of, but it does start with the board.
Right.
Giving them something.
Right.
To work with, and then going back to the board and saying, I heard this, I
Right.
heard that. And that means the students as well.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is like the beginning, because you can't just have one meeting when you're talking about this type of work.
Perfect, thank you.
It's very involved and there are so many steps, right? So you're steps ahead. To redo this properly, you will need to have your stakeholders present. You need to include surveys from stakeholders. You need to have them present at sessions. They'll work in smaller groups to share their thoughts and reflections. And then based on that, then a new document will be created. Now, the goal of today was to revisit the goals and objectives, mission, vision of the board. And so this will give your stakeholders kind of a starting point, right? And then they'll know where you stand, what you identify as key elements that must be present in your educational system. And that's how they will continue, or they will begin their work. Now, this was created again in 2011, or that's the date that I have on the document. So a lot has changed since then, right? Future as we thought it would be has definitely changed.
So.
We're in the future of this.
We're in the
document.
future.
11 years later.
We are the future.
Right, and so, and now it's also difficult to know what's going to happen next year, 5 years
Right,
from now,
right,
10 years from
absolutely,
now,
absolutely.
right? So, but a lot of this does not change,
That's right.
right? It
Right.
doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a pandemic. Joy for learning needs to be there. Global citizens, for education to be transformative, that needs to be there. Students to take ownership and design their own future. Doesn't matter what crisis we are in, that should always be an element. So what I suggest we do is to take a look at the rest of this document. You're not going to come up with what you need to change it with, to revise it completely, but at least I want you to have to review it and have the chance to take a look. Okay, and then we'll go over next steps.
Perfect.
So take, if you had the chance to look at the major themes.
You're looking at vision for shaping our future.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
where are we?
You're on that very first page, under your mission statement.
0-100.
0-100.
Yes, sorry, 0-100.
This is 6 major themes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then it goes, so let's take a look at what else is there in that document. You have your list of beliefs. This would be very much your core beliefs and values you came up with.
Okay, so that's the flip it over. It's on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I didn't even.
Yeah.
turn over.
Yeah,
Good morning.
it's there. Your core beliefs.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm talking about this one.
Oh, yes.
And that's on the other side.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Commitments. Listing what you're committed to. You have goals for the district and then goals for student learning.
So
Right, you
the
have,
goals for the district are the LCAP goals, right? These have been replaced by the current LCAP. Right?
You should be.
No, I don't think so.
They aren't, they
This is a
aren't.
BP, so it would live for a long time. The LCAP is a living document, so they're not exactly.
So this is where my brain starts to I don't understand goals for the district here and LCAP goals that we develop every 3 years. It seems like that should be the same thing.
I agree. And can I just throw something out there to think about? Because we've got goals, we've got beliefs, we've got commitments, we've got themes. What if we had a vision statement, a mission statement, and these are our values, and then that's done.
This goes.
And then LCAP is
Yeah,
our
I'm with you.
goals.
This goes, right? Because
yeah.
we don't need this. This is outdated.
Right, this is just
We're
like,
about
this
to
is
do a
what
new vision.
happened.
That was 11 years ago, right?
To me, all of these things are just, where are our values though?
I think
That's
beliefs
beliefs.
are
That's the
values.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay,
So
well.
we would
just
update
seems like we
this.
can-
Yeah, we would update this because we just generated values, right? We can update this. I don't understand commitments, but I guess we could do that too. And probably some
It's
things,
just
like one of our
repeating
values is
belief.
about being committed to public education. So maybe, I don't know, it could be either, but I don't understand.
I don't understand all the beliefs.
But I like what you said, Hillary, because that's the way we typically see it,
Exactly.
and it's easier to work from.
Mhm.
I think that's where I was coming from. I kept flipping pages going.
What is all this stuff?
And
What are you saying are the typical
So-
ways of listing it?
Go ahead, yeah, why don't you say it?
the vision statement, the mission statement, and these are values.
That's it. That would all be on one page.
Yes, and then people, it's something to
It's
read and
digestible then,
understand.
right?
Yes.
And it's not these
It'd
lofty.
be a lot easier to communicate. It'd be a lot easier to communicate.
Yes.
And then your goals come from there.
Yeah.
And then I have what we call actionable goals, right? So
Yeah.
forth like that.
Which is the LCAP, right? And then that helps our community understand what.
Our goals, but our actionable goals are our LCAP goals,
Mhm.
not the goals are different. Or are you saying they're the same? You said it would inform our goals and then we'd have actionable goals.
So,
Or are they,
so once you develop all that, you can just have goals for the district. And then what do you want me to do in each one of those goals?
That's the action.
What can I measure?
Oh, I see. Those are the things
Yes.
listed under,
Yes.
everything under the.
That we report out
Yeah.
to you.
You know, right, so this is how I see it. So once, and so, of course, the board's here this first time, so, so I look at it as we start this work, right? So then I take what we've done and say, the board has thought about this. What do you see, what do you want to add with my administrative team, my principals and so forth? And then I take this out to the community and I have all the meetings and some board members will be there too, you know. Then I come back to the board and say, this is what I've heard from all of these different groups, right? When the board says to me, hey, so here should be our goals. We come up with the vision statement, the mission, and say, these are our goals. And I'm like, well, what does that look like when I achieve number 1, number 2, number 3? When the board says to me, well, we want to hold you accountable for this, this, and this. But that's a lot of work, right? But that's the work of the board in terms of getting this done. And then we have a timeline in terms of when we want to do this, meet with these folks, or that, you know, that's how it's typically done.
I love that. And that gets back to what you're saying. Lofty goals, how do they get put into action?
That's what, so I'm going to shout from beyond at this point. But when we're arguing about, are they the LCAP goals, or are they separate goals, or are they whatever? Amal, when we developed those LCAP goals, that came out of that vision boarding exercise. That was prior to, like we said, and those are the goals that have stayed consistent. Those LCAP goals, I think, are the district goals. So what I think, honestly, we should have done at the time, which I don't know, BP 0200 could have had those 3 that the board developed.
Yes. That's exactly.
Like we should have revised it more recently, right? When we did that a few years ago. And then to your point, Donald, like the board has already developed those, I think, in my mind. And then you kind of go through the exercise that you're going through. I'm not short circuiting your exercise, but I think, Amal, we actually did do that through that vision boarding exercise. Like the board met and, you know, spent all this time on those 3 goals. And then we did communicate them, Cheryl, in your LCAP meetings. Remember, we had a lot where we introduced them as
Right.
part of that new LCAP. So,
And we felt like it should be aligned, right?
right, that
in-
it should
to
be
the
aligned and that they should stay consistent. We weren't going to change those. I mean, even remember, Cheryl, you even talked about like, do we need to modify those goals or all those things? But it's like, those are the goals. And then those action items that have gone underneath them through all the LCAP input and all the process, that obviously has captured a lot of community input.
So my question would be, is everything aligned?
We're working
This
on it.
vision. So it's just working on that alignment.
We're working on it.
We're working back.
We're almost going backwards.
Yeah, we're working backwards. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Backwards engineering.
That's right.
So
So it's an updated.
They really include a lot,
So,
but
working with this document is actually, for all of you to look at it is actually good, because I wanted you to look and see and find out the purpose for having it, right? What is the purpose for having this strategic plan philosophy? What are you trying to achieve? The idea of having your mission, vision, core values and beliefs that goes into, it's on your website. It will also be part of your governance handbook. And that should be the first page on your governance handbook. So then if I pick up your handbook, or if I'm visiting your website, I can see what you stand for, where the ideal future for your district is, and what you believe in as a district. What are your core values and beliefs? So what I'm hearing then is you have your core values and beliefs, which you will, I will type up and send you. Thank you. What is this one?
that's CSBA's.
Oh, sample. Okay, okay.
The education code related to 0200.
Got it. Okay. So let me send this around.
So this shows us what CSBA
Language, sample language.
for vision and mission.
This is LCAP.
Let me see. Hold on, it's really small print.
This goes,
This is 0200, 0200.
Oh,
This is
you didn't get one?
0200.
Do you have an extra one, Amal?
This is all 0200. I just want to make sure I'm passing the same thing around.
It's the same thing.
Mhm.
Is it a single page?
It's a single page,
Okay.
two-sided. Yeah, it's all the same. Okay.
See, this is exactly what I was thinking though, but it says the goals are listed in the LCAP. Then you don't have to update the policy. You just point people to the LCAP.
Yeah.
That's, while all this was talking, I was like, there's a simpler way. And CSBA thought about it.
Yeah, so
You don't have to do it, but that's how my brain was going.
oh, I see. So
You
I,
put it in
but
at 0200, is that what they're doing?
So that's the district goals. This isn't 100.
that's the next page on your packet, right? Or not the next package, but your district.
Oh, this one, yeah. Oh, so you
Yeah.
just put that page on there, okay.
So this is really supporting what we
What we've
actually
been
said we
talking
should be
about.
doing.
right.
Yeah, that our LCAP goals are the district
Right.
goals, right?
Mhm. Okay.
But what I do remember, when we first started the LCAP, everybody needed a lot of direction.
Yeah.
And the biggest question, because I was on the state committee at that time, was we had the LCAP, and then everybody said, well, I have my strategic plan.
Right.
And so the question became, for those districts who could not afford to do that whole process with the strategic plan, how to use the LCAP so that the LCAP could be your strategic plan.
Yeah.
Now, what you see people doing is moving away from the LCAP being their strategic plan and developing their own strategic plan.
And being a support, like a supporting
That's right.
document for your strategic.
That's right.
plan. Mhm. And I
The
see. that
LCAP
too.
is? So then you just populate the LCAP based on what your own strategic plan says. Is that what you're saying?
And there is alignment between the two, right? They're not two completely separate documents. One supports the
That's
other.
Because what was happening is that people thought that the LCAP was very limited and very limiting to just your marginalized groups. And so what happened was people started populating the LCAP to include all the other groups and the funding for, those areas, because it's like, okay, here's the money you get for this, for these groups of students, and you had to outline what you were doing, right? But what about the other students?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Except in our district, you only get $100,000 for those marginalized students. And that's not at all what the LCAP is focused on.
no. What I'm saying is that, so to address that, people started putting in, so now that they require you to put in, what are you doing, even though you're only getting this money for this, but what are the other dollars that you're using?
That's how we, in this district, because the dollars for this supplemental dollars are so small,
Right,
that's not even a focus at all of the
Mhm.
LCAP. That's
no, but I'm just saying the bigger
the bigger
picture,
picture, yeah,
that's how districts were doing it, yeah.
exactly.
To include the bigger picture and not just the specific
Absolutely.
areas where you're
We
getting
did what
funding.
you got, what Berkeley did was exactly what Piedmont,
Well, What
the
should,
whole thing.
what should Piedmont do?
What you're doing, only thing is, what you will see is people will call it out. If you don't put, let's say, all the dollars in there, people say, well, oh my God, you're just focusing on blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
What about,
Which
blah,
they-
blah, blah, here? That's what will happen if they don't see it.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I know. Cheryl knows that intimately.
Oh my God.
Academic excellence, which is not.
So
Like, why aren't you focusing on this? Well, we're not naming it because
We do it.
these
That's
are our
right.
goals and this is already built into our program.
right. So I think before we would, and Dr. Evans, you and I had a chance to talk about this a little bit already, one of the times we met. And I am aware that there are districts that have both a strategic plan and an LCAP. I think what was really good is that for this coming year, we wrote that a communication, like I named, we have an action item or a couple of them in the area of communication. If you have access to it and can take a look at the summary, the executive summary, and we have communication and collaboration as part of goal 3. And in there, we have an action item that we would include in our LCAP, some of the more broader programming, so that we don't have to go down that path of writing an entire strategic plan. So would love to see us work on how we can incorporate, Dr. Evans, elements of a strategic plan, like the core part of a strategic plan that you would see is missing from Piedmont's current LCAP, so that we don't have the two, because I think we worked really hard over the last 8 years, and we have everyone's we have people's attention, those that are really participatory in, and attending and part of clubs and all of our advocacy groups, they're all looking at the LCAP. So rather than having a completely separate plan, if we can just look at the communication and the collaboration pieces. And that's why I just want to circle back to what I sent to everyone from ALPS. This is exactly what this means. When we do the annual update, we will acknowledge that ALPS held a workshop, that they sent us the information, that we had this special board workshop, that we, acknowledged that this information was shared, we read through it, and that we took this into consideration. That is the communication, the two-way communication and the collaboration. And their email says that they would be sending follow-up statements, which they haven't done yet. So we welcome those in August, and we can incorporate those. And so a combination of that, along with Dr. Evans, your thoughts about how we can communicate the broader scope. And I know that Brian Kilgore, our Director of Communications, is attending this board workshop. So he's hearing and all of this discussion, and he and I have had a discussion already about highlighting each of the goals and developing a communication plan where the goals and then the action items would be communicated more broadly. And so that way, this misinterpretation of the LCAP excluding what we consider to be core program, or putting it off to the side, gets woven back in. So it's central, and all of the equity work is what is going to make Piedmont even more excellent.
Thanks, Corey.
That was Cheryl.
And I was hoping that.
That was Cheryl.
That was Dr. Wozniak.
Oh, Dr. Wozniak, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, she's just on mute.
Oh,
Yes, I can hear you.
yeah, because what I've seen in working with other districts is that, well, first of all, it's costly. You're going to do a strategic plan. It's costly and it's time consuming. And to do it really, do it right, it's about a year process. And so, and it could cost you up to, $7,500,000 to have someone come in and do it. And so I do like it being your LCAP being the strategic plan. It's just ensuring that all these things are in there.
I agree with all of that. I think that one of the fundamental problems our community has right now is that it's called the LCAP. And it needs to be rebranded. We don't need to blow it all up. But just for instance, Palo Alto calls their strategic plan the promise. So they go by the academic year or 2 academic years. These 5 things are the Palo Alto promise. And they drill it down to some really basic overarching goals. And so it's so easy to see, oh, that's what they're working on. And then you can
Absolutely.
get all of the stuff, it's just, if you'll humor me, there's 5: serve and celebrate others, mental health and wellness, early literacy, equity and excellence, and healthy attendance. Oh
Very
my
simple.
God. So, and because Cheryl, you've done amazing work with the LCAP and the goals are great. I think we're covering all the areas we need to cover. It's just that no one has the time or bandwidth to understand it. And I just think we could make it a lot easier for ourselves to
How to
look like we're a
simplify it.
strategic board.
Mhm.
We are working on these 4 or 5 things. And yeah, and next year they might be the same. They might change slightly, might change more dramatically when the LCAP every 3 years. but I just,
Year
it's
two
just,
of the LCAP, right?
yeah.
So I remember.
It's just like calling it goal 1 and then it's this really long sentence and then goal 2, really long sentence. I just think it
Well,
would,
we can just look at those goals and just communicate them.
Are those
in-
silos?
Yeah.
Drawing again.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Oh, the pillars.
Pillars,
Yeah.
pillars of which you stand like excellence and just something like this.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the students are the foundation.
I love
So,
that.
yeah.
Yes, it's easy.
And this
It's easy
becomes the
to see.
foundation.
Yeah.
and-
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
those are your communication tools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And they have a toolkit, so if you want to drill down further, you can.
Right.
You know, take
We can do
these out.
that with our current.
No, no,
LCAP.
that's
And it's
perfect.
interesting,
That is perfect.
You know, I printed out one from Napa Valley USD.
Okay,
It's very similar,
Yeah,
actually.
just like call it something else.
I was thinking pillars of heat or something like that.
Like
You
that.
know, when you have these 5 pillars. in which
Wait, what are you
stand-
drawing?
He's trying to-
What are you drawing?
Very faint.
I took it up the saying and I put them, Piedmont pillar, the pillars of Piedmont, and what do we stand on, these 5 different things? And then based on what she was saying from LCAP, Palo Alto.
So I'm sorry, I have a hard stop and I have to leave
Oh.
because I have to be at a, anyway, doesn't matter. I have to leave at 11:45. I have several times in the course of my tenure here have pointed to UCSF has a pyramid. At the top is the vision. And just look it up, look up UCSF True North. And it's at the top is the vision, right below it is the mission, and then there are the pillars. And then there's a basis of the values.
Right.
So if you think of it, that's a visual, and if we think about, and it may or may not work for how we're thinking, but that it's always resonated with
Yeah,
me.
this is awesome.
That, I mean, it's not the prettiest thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen, but the idea of it is really kind of, it's visually captivating. You get the kernel, the core of what we were talking about. There are a ton of words behind it. The other thing UCSF has that I really like is we have what we call pride values. So that our values are in 5. I can't remember. PRID. I think it's on there. Are the pride values on there?
It says
Specialism,
beliefs.
No, I don't see pride.
responsibility.
It's on here, professionalism, respect,
Oh, I'm-
integrity, diversity, and excellence. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, that one.
I like, okay.
Right, so, I mean,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be just that, but you can go anywhere on campus and talk about pride values. I mean, I couldn't remember what they stood for, but I know what they mean collectively.
Right.
And everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It is shorthand for something.
Oh, okay, she can say pride.
I love that idea of
It does
everybody
spell
having the
out.
same foundational understanding of what our vision and mission is.
Mhm.
That can be communicated easily and that everybody in the district knows.
And on the health side, that pyramid is called the True North, and it is on every single health unit knows what the True North is, and they work around that every single year on all their action items, their strategy items, all of those things. So when you drew that, Donald, the pillars of Piedmont, it automatically linked me to that. And so I thought maybe that's, you can't see Corey and Cheryl, but he did vision, mission, and then his pillars of Piedmont under a pyramid shape.
And instead of the True North, we can have our students, the student sign that's there. I like that. Are you a graphic designer too?
No, I'm a visual person, so as you're talking, I have to put it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm a very visual.
So,
Oh, we made a lot of progress just that quick.
I'm going to take a
We're
picture
working
of that
on it.
because what
Yeah.
I'm going to do, talking about next steps, first of all, I wrote here exactly what a few of you had mentioned as far as outcomes from this meeting. So your vision, mission, core values. I like the idea of having something like or promise or a document that's a supporting document from your LCAP. So it's not a completely separate document, but it's something that's more easily understood and simpler. And it would have a visual like that. And maybe you want to call it Pillars of Piedmont. It's really up to you. I will include all of this in the memo for all of you. So you have something to look at that summarizes all of your conversations and discussions. Then the next steps would be to take a look at that and then revise if you needed, your mission, your vision, your core values, and then adopt it at your next meeting. Okay. Next steps would be to then take this on a, I guess, take your mission, vision, core values, look at your LCAP, and figure out how you want to create that document that kind of supports your LCAP, and that's a whole other day, if not a couple of sessions of your time devoted to creating that document that supports the LCAP, but it's also simpler for all of your stakeholders to understand. And it begins with your mission, vision, and your core values.
We wouldn't do that though, right? That's not a board thing to do.
If you want to do that properly, it would start as a strategic plan process with your stakeholders, right?
Oh, you mean how to communicate the LCAP?
No.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
No,
All
not
right,
how
yeah.
to, you do communicate the LCAP.
Yeah,
You do have a process for that, no.
okay.
Hi, Amal.
Bye,
Thank you
Amal.
so much.
Hi, Amal.
Sorry.
No worries.
So, the process of creation of a strategic plan it's lengthy and it's expensive, for sure. But I have a feeling that's how this document was created, You're Shaping Our Future, which is taking input from your stakeholders. So maybe that's something for you when you have when your superintendent has been identified. That might be a good idea to do, to start fresh. You may have a couple of, not that you may, I think, you will have a couple of new board members, right? If memory serves right. So that's a good time. I would not recommend it now because you are going to have a new superintendent and new board members. So to do something like that starting in January, that process of collecting input from your stakeholders, revisiting at that point your mission, vision, and core values with your new team. Because even if you have one new board member, you have a brand new governance team. And in your case, you'll have a new superintendent and a couple of board members. Does that sound right? Dr. V, no question.
I
I'm
think it was
just-
hard. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dr. V.
No, go ahead.
No, I interrupted you. I didn't know that you were speaking. Go ahead, please.
No, I was just listening and trying to clarify what I heard the next steps were. Because I believe that we have to start the LCAP review in the spring term, because it'll have to be annual review at that time.
23, right?
Yeah.
Next year, yeah.
That would be a review for year 3. We actually have to do a brand new LCAP the following year. So the strategic planning process would inform that brand new LCAP.
So everything starting next year is my point, makes sense in January, spring of next year, starting that process.
We're
the
in,
goal-
sorry, I just want to clarify, Dr. V, what you're saying, because Cheryl and I were going back and forth on this. This coming year, because of COVID, this coming year is year 2 of our 3-year LCAP process, right? So then we have this coming year, and then the year after that is year 3. Is that what you're saying, Veronica? I just want to make sure we're all on the same.
Yes, that's what I was saying. That
Okay, want to make sure we're on the
year
same.
we're going
timeline.
into, starting this fall is year 2.
Got it. Okay.
And fall of 2023 is year 3,
Okay.
beginning of year 3.
Right. I wanted to, so sorry, when I was interrupting Dr. V before, I wanted to ask a clarifying question about the process, because there have been parts that are a little hard to hear. So are you saying, Sabine, that the work we've done on vision mission today, do we do something, do we move that forward? That, yeah, Veronica's nodding. I'm like, I feel like I missed a spot because you're saying doing something not till the new board members and doing a whole big exercise when they come on. I'm all,
No.
we don't want to lose the work from today, right? Because we haven't finished.
No,
The
so
work from today has to be finished so that we can vote on it, right?
Right,
Exactly.
How does that get finished? That's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest something, but go ahead, because you may, yeah.
go ahead, tell me your suggestion.
Well, I was just gonna say, maybe we can take pieces of this, right? We'll start a Google Doc and, you know, some people here say they'll take a stab at drafting whatever, and then we all look at it and weigh in, and then we're gonna have to probably meet again, right? In order to finalize it. I don't think we can handle it all over email.
No, so once you get the memo, which will have the summary of all of your conversations, then you can start that process of working together on a shared document, however you want to do that process. And then you'll come together and bring all of your work. And at that point is when you decide, okay, this is a completed process, completed work. It's very difficult to do it all at one setting because you all need to take it back and take a look at it a second time, third time to figure out, does this really capture my thoughts and reflections and what I see for the district? Now, what I talked about when you have new board.
So at what point, because it could only be a draft, because you have not had all the stakeholders input in terms of the vision. So when it goes to the board to be adopted, at what point are you talking about bringing it to the board to be
The
adopted?
first reading and all that? Okay, yeah, you've got to have 2 readings.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that piece, but I'm just saying, it's before you bring it to for the first reading, shouldn't you have stakeholders input? Yeah.
Right, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, this
I
is
just
the
wanted to make
work that
sure.
the board did on this date. This is what the board came up with, or the governance
That's
team.
exactly, I wanted to clarify that piece. Yes.
Definitely, oh, yes,
How do we
definitely.
do that? Do we
Okay.
just share it publicly? Do we ask for, like, how do you do that?
So,
It's however you want to communicate it, right?
I
But
think,
Dr. Evans is asking for feedback. He's
Yeah, but
saying
right,
for
so-
input and engagement.
exactly. So the way that I think it, my recommendation is that the board's draft stuff go back and forth. And once they kind of like get a draft, then I say, this is what I heard. I think it should be something that you should have me do to the community.
Oh, I
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because it helps
Oh,
with
that would be what
transparency.
your meeting that you were talking about.
Yes, it helps with
Okay.
transparency. It helps with, communicating with the
Yeah,
community.
yeah,
They're having input. I mean, instead of, but I think it starts with you
Yeah.
guys
Okay.
kind of fine tuning it.
Translated by you.
And then I can say, this is what we started.
Mhm.
What would you like to see added or, something like that? So that when I come back to you, I can say, I met with blah, 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 blah. This
Got
is
it.
what I heard.
Yeah.
I love that.
I do too.
And but in each of those, Donna, you mentioned this before, in each, maybe not all of the meetings, but in some of those meetings, you have either one board member there at times,
Exactly.
right? Like it's like a,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
No, I would love that.
On there. Yes.
And our board members assigned to buildings, I mean, this could be rolled out by building.
Well,
with the-
I think that's a great idea, and I think that's something that we've suggested before is you mean a site?
Yeah.
Like each board member be assigned a site. I think that's.
We
a great
are, Megan, I mean, we are assigned based
Well,
on
we
our parent
kind-
clubs and based on, right?
Kind of are,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, that's what I heard, so.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a natural liaison
Yeah.
with you.
I
and
have beach. I mean,
That's true.
And
yeah,
so
each one of us have
You
a
would go
school.
to the school together and facilitate this process.
Yeah,
Beach at
exactly.
Wildwood. Sorry, I'm
Right.
saying beach at
I know, I thought
Wildwood.
you had Wildwood, Veronica. I was like, wait a minute.
No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Wildwood, but I'm saying beach.
And I guess I was saying that's a great idea because I think that role could be sort of expanded or, as far
Mhm.
as going there with you for that sort of, anyway, I have
Mhm.
ideas
And
about
I
how that
think
could be
it's a
expanded.
nice thing to happen between now and, especially during the fall,
Yeah.
as you start setting yourself up for a new superintendent.
Mhm.
It's nice when they ask you, like, they'll say, they'll do a brochure. And they'll have your values, your mission, blah, 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 blah. So it's very clear what you want, right? For a superintendent and making sure that superintendent's vision and alignment is, his vision and stuff is, or your vision is
Absolutely.
So that happens in January. So that could be the work, part of the work that we do in the fall to set us up for January. Did you hear me, Corey? Could you hear me?
Yeah, no, I did hear you. I mean, so part of that, what you were just making me think about, Donald, and Megan and Amal are working on this, right? When we have a search firm, the community engagement, the timeline for community engagement is in the fall, right? In terms of what we want to see in a superintendent as well. And there's going to be kind of lots of opportunities for community engagement, but that's
That's right.
definitely slated to happen in the fall as well. So I think we'll have to be thinking about the ways, and there'll just naturally be a lot of community engagement this fall with the election too, I think, right? I mean, Megan, you remember, there's all sorts of candidate forums, there's all sorts of stuff going on this fall where people are going to be talking. So I think that'll lend itself to lots of engagement. I had a quick question. So Deputy, you may have said this and I may have missed it. How long does it take for your magical memo to come back to us? This looks like a lot of work to get all of this together.
Yeah, couple of weeks. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It will go to you and to Dr. Evans, and then you can forward it to the rest of your team.
Okay,
And
super.
then you decide how you're going to communicate and work on it further. Then you need to set a time, a date and time for all of you to get together and look at that finished or that draft, the, I guess, first draft, right? Yeah, so that's really important to put that on your calendars.
Yeah, we need to schedule that.
And then once you do that, then the next step would be to adopt it at the next meeting. And that would be it. Once
So
you
the
have
next
your-
meeting, guys, just so everyone knows, is our first meeting of the year is August 10th, right? So hopefully everyone is fired up for that.
Yep,
Yeah, I don't think she means at our next meeting. It's
no,
the next meeting after we have.
after
to-
your input,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
At the following meeting,
After in.
after the
All
input,
the
yeah,
input
right,
that you.
yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought she meant the next board.
No,
meeting.
no,
So did I. Well, no, I was thinking, so Stephanie, this comes in 2 weeks. Well, no, but if it could, but I was thinking it could, right? If you get it to us in 2 weeks, that's July, into July, and then our next meeting is 2 weeks after that. I don't know. Anyway, I was thinking we could maybe do it.
Yeah.
But Dr. Evans wants to
You don't
run
have
with
to-
community input.
Okay.
Because then you adopt.
Oh,
it
no,
based-
I was thinking, all I was thinking we were adopting, not adopting, but like just, I guess, reacting to your memo in a way that then Dr. Evans has what he needs to go forth. You
share.
know what I mean? Like, we're going to look at the memo. I thought we were kind of reviewing the information that came back from the memo, making sure we not agreed, but you know what I mean? Like making sure it was consistent with what we thought was coming out of this session. And then Dr. Evans, you would have information to then go forth. That's all I was thinking. I thought we had to kind of, whatever, we can talk about this offline. I know we're running out of time.
He gave us an assignment to craft and draft a vision and mission based on the information that we have in draft format.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna
That's
be
the-
for.
Yeah,
Okay.
And mission, vision, and belief, and beliefs
beliefs.
and values.
For-
Yeah. 'Cause we
Which
have
you-
all that
You
stuff.
have all
Well, I
of it.
think you guys are on it, right? You already, that's, you know, that won't take that long. Just kidding.
Do the wordsmithing.
Together,
Yeah.
right, right. And that.
Yeah, so Stephanie, maybe just, Sylvia just texted me a good idea. So in your memo, maybe clarify all the next, like you'll have it written out, all the
Yeah.
next steps, I think, right?
I'll have next steps. The last part of the memo is next steps.
Yeah.
And then you'll know what you need to do. Right.
Right. Okay.
And I'll take photos of everything, so then I have all the information. In your folders, there is a workshop feedback form if you have time. I know you're probably really tired and you want to do.
Do it right now.
But if you can give me feedback, even if it's just, whatever the feedback is, I really do appreciate it. I do look at it.
I'm still.
Hey, while you guys are filling that out, I just wanted to thank you because Cheryl and I texted a little bit while this is going on since we were the two remote. It actually was, I didn't think it was going to work to participate remotely, but it actually was really useful. So I appreciate you guys including us and letting us participate since we couldn't be there in person. So thank you.
Glad to have you with us.
This does happen. This is not the first time. So at least for me, as far as facilitating, I wanted to make sure that you're capturing your thoughts and reflections and that you feel included. So I'm glad that you did. You do. Make sure I have photos of everything.
I think I'm going to drop off, right? Because I.
Bye, Corey.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Corey.
We officially need to end the meeting.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, we still have 4.
I officially end this meeting. If there's anything else I need to say, adjourn the meeting.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then they can stop the taping.
Yeah. Sylvia needs to do that.